Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. The Real World. I'm unsure how many people actually know of The Real World because it's been off the air for about 7 years now. But if you are a TV person, whether you love reality TV, scripted TV, TV in general, you need to know about The Real World. It's required. So if you don't have time to watch all 33 seasons of the show, this video is going to be your cliff notes to the entire Real World series. We're going to be going over every single season, the cast of each season, and the biggest moment or moments in each season. I'm so excited to do this video. It's been a long time coming. The Real World is known as the birth of modern reality TV. I don't believe that The Real World was the first reality TV show, but any reality TV show you see now, the way it's shot, the way it's executed, the premises, all that good stuff, can be thanks to The Real World. The premise of The Real World is simple. It's a true story of 7 strangers picked to live in a house, work together, and have their lives taped. And eventually, we find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. You see what I did there?
This is the true story
of 7 strangers
picked to live in a house,
work together, and have their lives taped.
Find out what happened.
People stop being polite.
Start getting real.
The Real World.
That little quick summary I just gave you guys was said at the beginning of every single Real World episode in its opening credits, and it's pretty much true. Like, that's literally the premise of the show. They took 7 random young adults between the ages of 18 and 26, which they eventually upped the minimum age to 21 and then extended it to 32, I think, in later seasons. They would take them, put them in a house, have them interact, have them do random jobs together, and yeah, just chronicled their lives of living together from 3 to 6 months. The earlier season started with 7 cast members, but in some of the later seasons, they would start with 8. And each season could have more than 7 or 8 cast members, whether it's a twist in the season, which we'll get into in the later seasons, or if people would leave the house and they would bring in replacements. To make sure everything is captured, microphones and cameras are put up all throughout the house, similar to the Big Brother house. Cameramen also followed them throughout the house and while they were out in public. They are told to ignore the cameras and pretend they're not there, but in later seasons, the cameramen would be more of a bigger part of the show, as they would be seen a lot more on screen, and then also the cast would interact with them a lot more. The only place in the house where cameras weren't permitted was in the bathroom. And I mean, the bathroom as in like the toilets, because we definitely saw people in showers, you know. That was kind of iconic to see people in the shower, like making out or whatever. One of the biggest innovations that The Real World started were the confessionals. So anytime you see a confessional on reality TV, you have The Real World to thank. While watching the show, you'll often see cast members talk directly to the camera and talk about what is about to happen in the scene or what is happening in the scene. For example, 2 of the roommates in the house could go out for lunch, and then the confessional will show one of them being like,
so me and Sean are about to go to lunch and we're going to talk about all the drama in the house because it's getting insane.
That's the confessionals. The confessionals were a huge part of the show. They were typically filmed at the end of each week, and typically the producers would either just tell them to like talk about whatever they want in the week, like kind of let them freestyle, or they would ask them questions and have them answer them. The season 1 confessionals were different as they were kind of filmed throughout the house, but starting with season 2, the confessional would be a separate soundproof room where the roommates can go in and talk about whatever, and in later seasons they removed the soundproofing, which would cause drama because people would go into confessionals and talk shit, and people would overhear it, and that will start, you know, drama. As the opening credits stated, the cast also worked together, but not initially. In earlier seasons, some of the cast would come in with jobs already, or the season will chronicle them trying to find a job in this new city. However, starting with season 5, Miami, they were given a group assignment or a group job provided by the producers. The decision to have them work together is really smart because not only do they live together, but now they have to work together. It's like, imagine if your coworkers were also your roommates. Like me personally, like I don't really have any coworkers at my 9 to 5 who I like dislike heavily, but I would not want to live with any of them. So imagine me having to like go to work, do work with my coworkers, and then come home and they also live with me. Like I would be so pissed off like all the time. The work aspect of the show would become a big deal as starting with season 10, the job was a mandatory job. So if you happen to get fired from the job or if you don't do the job, you will also have to leave the show. Overall, the show was super innovative and it was one of the first non-music related programs to air on MTV. I almost wrote in my script that this show was big for millennials, but honestly it wasn't. The show was mostly big for Gen X, and I mean, as the show continued on and lasted over 20 years, obviously millennials would catch up, but the show was for Gen X. Millennials were way too young to be watching this show. Like the first season premiered in 1992, meaning the oldest millennials at the time were only 11 years old when the show premiered, and some of the youngest millennials like me, born in 1994, I wasn't even born yet. Like, this show is so old that the first season almost had a boomer on the cast, which if you don't know, like the timeline of the generations. It's Boomer, Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. The youngest cast member on the first season was Julie. She was 19, born in 1973, making her a Gen Xer. The oldest cast member of season 1 was Kevin, who was 26 years old, born in 1966, which would also make him a Gen Xer, but he was very close to being a Boomer. I'm already talking about the season 1 cast, so let's go ahead and get into the seasons. I am so excited. I can't contain my excitement. Wait, actually, before we get into the seasons, I'm not going to talk about every single thing in each season. Some seasons I will talk about more than others because I personally have not seen all 33 seasons. You will probably know what seasons I've watched based on how much I talk about them. However, I do want to do deep dives into individual seasons where I do go episode by episode and kind of like talk about the show that way. That's in the future. So yeah, if I talk a lot about certain seasons and not as much about others, it's probably because I haven't seen it. So that is why it is important that you guys comment down below whenever I talk about certain seasons. If there's important moments or your favorite moments from seasons that I missed, put it in the comments because people need to know about this iconic show. Season 1, originally known as just The Real World, but retrospectively known as The Real World New York, aired its first episode on May 21st, 1992, just 3 days after production ended. I noticed this when I was doing all my research for like the dates and stuff. They would air these seasons so quickly after they finished production. Like this season was 3 days, sometimes in a week, 5 days, 2 weeks even. I'm guessing they're editing as they're shooting maybe. That's why they were able to air them so quickly after production ended. I don't know. This season consisted of 13 30-minute episodes. Remember when TV shows were 30 minutes long? Miss those days. The cast included Becky, a 24-year-old singer from Pennsylvania, Andre, a 23-year-old singer from Michigan, Heather, a 20-year-old rapper from New Jersey, Julie, a 19-year-old dancer from Alabama, Norman, a 25-year-old artist from Michigan, Eric, a 20-year-old model from New Jersey, and Kevin, a 26-year-old educator from New Jersey. As you can tell from the cast, a lot of them already live kind of close to New York, a lot of them being from New Jersey or in nearby states like Pennsylvania, because one of the biggest stories of this season was the fish out of water storyline for Julie, because as you can see from the like places these people lived at, Julie was the one and only person from the South. She was 19 years old, from Alabama, from a small town, and her like going to New York, being this fish out of water type character was kind of a big plot point of the first season. She was from this small town, very conservative family. She really hadn't gotten outside of her small town or really interacted with anybody who wasn't, you know, also like her, you know, white, country, conservative. She was almost in some hot water in the very first episode when Heather's pager went off and she made a joke about Heather possibly being a drug dealer, which is like, you said that because I'm black.
What is that?
It's a beeper.
Oh.
Do you sell drugs? Why do you have a beeper?
The biggest beef of this season is between small town girl Julie and Kevin, who you may describe as a hotep, but overall is like very passionate about the liberation and treatment of black people. In episode 7, they get into a really big fight that stems from race and how Kevin feels he's treated by the house. During the fight, he mentions Los Angeles, as while the season was filming, the Los Angeles riots were happening after the police brutally attacked Rodney King, as well as just the racial tensions going on in LA. There was also a very ridiculous plot point in episode 6 when the house decided to play a prank on Kevin. Kevin had missed out on one of their like Sunday family dinners or whatever, so they decided to play a prank on him. I think it was also April Fool's Day or close to it when they played this prank. And they decided to like become the complete opposite of who they are. Pretty much being like, oh, Kevin, you're never here, so we're gonna actually pretend to be, you know, the complete opposite of what you think we are because you're not here. But the ones that really got to Kevin was Julie acting like, you know, a sexual, sensual girl, even though the entire house knew that she was a virgin. And then also Eric pretended to be gay, and Kevin and Eric actually lived in the same room. So Kevin felt like he knew Eric the most, so when he found out he was like acting gay or was gay or whatever, he like felt some type of way about it, and then he left the house and like was acting like he was gonna leave the show, but they told him it was just a prank, bro, and he came back. Speaking of gay, our first LGBT representation on the show was Norman. As it was 1992, he wasn't super open about it, but he does share it with the house, and he does eventually start dating a guy that he meets on the show. Last thing I want to talk about with this season is another big moment that happens between Kevin and Julie towards the end of the season. A big fight happened off camera where Julie alleges that Kevin threatened her with a candlestick and spit at her. Kevin says that they got into an argument after Julie possibly made him miss out on a career opportunity due to her use of the phone, but he says he never threatened her or spit at her. No one was around to see this fight, and when Julie started telling people, people like Eric and Norman decided to take Julie's side because of Kevin's history of aggressive behavior. I watched this season and I don't believe Kevin was ever aggressive. He got into a lot of like heated debates with people, mostly about race and like just his opinions on like how things are going in the world. You know, debates, people get a little loud or whatever. I don't think he was ever truly aggressive. He just was very passionate, and he took that as them just, you know, throwing that aggressive label on him because of his race. Kevin and Julie eventually talk it out. They kind of agree to disagree, but Julie is like, I don't want to be left alone with Kevin anymore. Overall, the show was a massive success, and the cast will become famous overnight. They will go on to do a lot of big things after the show, and some even returned to MTV to do the challenge, which the challenge will have to be an entirely separate video because that has way more seasons and is actually still going on to this day. I can't wait to do the challenge video either, because the challenge was actually my introduction to reality TV. I watched a season of the challenge before I watched a season of The Real World, so we'll talk about that at another time. But speaking of returning, we need to talk about The Real World Homecoming. In 2021, the cast reunited nearly 30 years after their original season and participated in The Real World Homecoming. They moved into the same loft they lived in back in 1992, and I believe they stayed there for about 2 weeks. The entire cast moved into the loft with the exception of Eric, who participated virtually after he tested positive for COVID. During this reunion, they would talk about moments that happened on the show, they would talk about their lives post the show, and they would also talk a lot about how the state of the world has changed from 1992 to 2021. The biggest moment of Homecoming was Becky, who decided to leave halfway through the show after the topic of privilege and racism came up.
The Dole situation is not running away, Becky.
I'm not running away. I don't want to be a part of this show anymore.
I hear you.
Sorry. It's just, I don't
It's
want
up
to
to
be a
you.
part of the reality show anymore.
I hear you.
She was like one of those people that would be like,
Yeah, we were just so done with America, so we moved to the south with friends. I can be in Italy, take a train, and be in Paris. And then go from Paris to Madrid.
And you know, I have a farm out in the south of France, and we grow our own vegetables.
like she was very like that type of older white woman. And people like Kevin, and not just Kevin, a lot of the cast was like this, but it's like, girl, for you to be able to like do that, you have like a privilege of being able to do that. Like a lot of people can't just pick up and move out of America for like a better life, quote unquote. They kind of have to stay here because they don't have the money to go to the south of France or whatever the fuck. I would say you guys should go and watch this, but you can't. You can't. The Real World Homecoming would go on to do 3 seasons, and I'll talk about the other seasons later, but all 3 seasons were removed from Paramount Plus back in 2023. The only way you can watch them is by either purchasing them on like places like Amazon Prime, or if you can go to certain websites, Jack Sparrow, if you catch my drift. I believe you can find it there, but other than that, you can't find it anywhere. However, I would suggest you watch the original New York season, as that is able to be streamed on Paramount Plus, as well as a lot of other seasons. I feel like it holds up today, even though it's 35 years old. You just have to remember the time era of which it was filmed and put out, you know? My favorite thing about watching older seasons of The Real World is that it is like truly a time capsule into what life was like. So if you wanted to know what it was like being a young adult living in New York City in the early 90s, watch The Real World New York. If you wanted to know what it was like being a young adult in the Y2K era, 1999 going into 2000, watch either The Real World Hawaii or The Real World New Orleans. If you wanted to know what it was like being a young adult in the mid-2000s, watch seasons like Austin or Denver. And I know at the beginning of the year, 2016 was making this kind of renaissance. You know, everybody's talking about 2016 this, 2016 that. If you want to know what it was like being a young adult living in like 2016 or like that 2014, 2016 era, I don't have to rewatch The Real World because I was a young adult during that era. 2014, I turned 20, so I was there for that. But if you weren't, you can go and watch seasons like Skeletons or Go Big or Go Home if you want to know what it was like being an adult those years. It's just, The Real World is like a time capsule, and it's like so cool to go back and just see it. Like the fashion, the way they spoke, like the things they talked about, like the places they went. It was just like, it's so cool. Like I need all 33 seasons of The Real World on DVD right now. Anyways, we are going to go on to the next season because I have only gotten through 1 season and I've been filming for 33 minutes. So let's keep going. Season 2, originally known as The Real World California, but retrospectively known as The Real World Los Angeles, premiered on June 26, 1993, a little over a year after the first season premiered. This season consisted of 21 30-minute episodes, filmed over 5 months. The original cast includes Aaron, a 21-year-old college student from California, Beth S., a 24-year-old production assistant from Ohio, David, a 21-year-old comedian from DC, Dominic, a 24-year-old writer from Ireland but moved to the US at 17, Irene, a 25-year-old cop from California, John, an 18-year-old college student and singer from Kentucky, and Tammy, a 21-year-old singer from New York. I said original cast because this season is the first season to have people leave and have replacements come in. The first person to leave on the show is David. In one of the biggest moments of the season, he and Tammy got into a bit of a kerfuffle. But David decides to play a prank on Tammy by ripping the covers off of her while she's in the bed. However, Tammy does not have on any clothes under the covers, so she is adamantly trying to not get him to take the covers off of her because she doesn't want to be seen naked on camera. But he is violently trying to rip the covers off of her. And you got Tammy screaming, telling him to stop. You got Beth trying to come in and help Tammy out. It gets insane. He does eventually get the covers off her, much to her dismay, and she's really pissed off. And David's like, I don't understand why you're so upset. I'm gonna expose myself right now. And he pulls his pants down in front of the cameras. And it's like, bro, you still don't get it. You had the choice to pull your pants down and expose yourself to the cameras. Tammy didn't have that choice. She didn't want to do it, and you did it for her. That's the difference. And because it's 1993, these guys don't seem to understand what the real issue is, because a lot of the guys are on David's side, meanwhile the women are on Tammy's side. But when it's all said and done, David does move out in episode 7 and is replaced by Glenn, a 22-year-old singer from Pennsylvania. The second person to leave the house is Irene after she gets married to her fiance in episode 11. She's replaced by Beth A in episode 12, a 22-year-old production assistant from Oregon. Cast member John kind of played a similar role as Julie did last season, as he was also from a very small town, very young, going to the big city of Los Angeles. However, John was a little bit more conservative than Julie was. He was the closest to Irene, as he kind of saw her as a mom figure. Gotta remember, Irene was 25, John was 18. That was a big gap. So I mean, she's not mom. It's just I would say more of an older sister vibe, but he says mom. And he was actually really upset when she got married and left the house. He was distraught.
Because he was so sad that day. He actually wanted to cry.
He looked like somebody ran over his puppy or something. I felt so bad for him. He was like, I just want to go home.
You also have issues with people like Aaron, David, and Tammy, but after a while, he and Tammy actually becomes pretty close. Speaking of Tammy, he and Tammy actually meet in an interesting way. So in last season, New York, when they moved into the house, they all just kind of came in one by one. However, with this season, they decided to do something different, and they had majority of the cast do the same thing, just show up to the house. But they had 3 of them, Dominic, Tammy, and John, do a road trip to the house. So apparently Dominic and Tammy flew to Nashville, and then they drove from Nashville to Kentucky to pick up John from his house, his actual house. And they met his parents and all that. And then they drove from Kentucky to Los Angeles, doing all of this in a Winnebago. Which, if you know, this is a tease of what they would do with their future sister show, Road Rules, which obviously will need to be a separate video. Lastly, we need to talk about the most interesting cast member this season, which is Miss Tammy. If you are a reality TV fan, you know Tammy. She's most known for being a part of Basketball Wives, joining the 2nd season in 2010, and being on the show until 2019. But she's been in a lot of other reality TV shows and also has been in some scripted shows. I believe she's currently a cast member on the Miss Pat show, but I might be wrong. I've never seen it, but I think I've seen clips of her on that show. Coming into the house, she was a part of a girl group named Reality, and she also worked as an AIDS care specialist. But she would eventually quit that job as it was becoming really hard on her, seeing patients she would grow close with pass away.
I think it only gets sad when the day they're supposed to show up, they don't. And then you find out they're not there anymore. It takes a toll on you after a while.
In the show, she talked a lot about her issues with how she sees herself. She struggled a lot with her weight, and drastically in episode 11, she decides to wire her mouth shut to lose weight, which is insane. I didn't even know that's a thing people could do.
Getting my mouth wired Everyone thinks I'm crazy to do this. I'll probably be talking a little bit like this, like Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island.
The biggest thing, however, she dealt with this season was her pregnancy and her abortion. She shares it with the house, letting them know that she was getting an abortion, which, once again, you gotta remember the time, it's 1993. Abortion and public speak on it was not common. And a lot of the cast outwardly supported her, but people like John felt some type of way about it. Remember, he is from this small town, conservative, religious. If it was the modern day, he would probably identify as pro-life. But, he talks to some of the roommates about it, and they kind of like, inform him, this is her choice. She has to live with it. It's not really your place to tell her she's right or wrong. This wouldn't be the last time we see this cast all together. The second season of The Real World Homecoming will reunite the Los Angeles cast nearly 30 years after their original season. This season premiered in November 2021, and everyone minus Dominic and Aaron returned. This season was messy, way more messy than the New York reunion. The New York reunion was very mature, they talked about serious topics and they really listened to one another. This was messy, and it was mainly messy because the issue of David pulling the covers off Tammy's, they talked about that. And even though it's been 30 years, David still sees no issue with what he did. And he was pissed off because after he had left the show, he was missing out on jobs and stuff because of all that. And Tammy was like, well, you probably should have. I'm not surprised you missed out on jobs because you're sitting here 30 years later still, confused as to what you did wrong. It makes no sense. He and Tammy get into it a lot. It gets to the point where Tammy calls up her husband and is like, this man is talking to me crazy. I need you to pull up, because Tammy lives in Los Angeles. So she's like, I need you to come talk to this man because he is out his mind. And David's like, you know what? I'm out of here. So before her husband could show up to the house, he leaves the show for good. Tammy also had to deal with 2 cast members saying nigga. Tammy was going through it.
And they called him a
And then Irene, thinking she's helping Tammy out, tries to jump to her defense, and then she says it. And then Tammy's like, girl, you can't say that. You're Latina. Bro, I wish these shows are still on streaming. The fact that they removed these from streaming is criminal. That is the issue with streaming. Ugh.
I have no idea what it is to be a okay?
Well, I can't.
Do not ever say that.
You don't say it either. Because you Latina.
It's so good though. It was so messy. The third season, San Francisco, aired on June 30th, 1994, consisting of 20 30-minute episodes filmed over 4 months. The original cast included Corey, a 20-year-old student from California, Judd, a 24-year-old animator from New York, Muhammad, a 24-year-old singer from California, Pam, a 26-year-old medical student from California, Pedro, a 22-year-old AIDS educator from Florida, Puck, a 25-year-old bicycle messenger from California, and Rachel, a 23-year-old college graduate from Arizona. Our lone replacement this season is Joe, a 22-year-old from London. She replaces Puck, who was voted out of the house by a majority vote, which we'll talk about him in a second. The biggest story from this season is surrounding Mr. Pedro Zamora. I watched this season for the first time a few years ago, and knowing how Pedro's story ended made me so emotional. Every time I would see him on screen, I would get sad, and he's just the sweetest and nicest guy. And literally anytime I thought about how it all ends, I will get emotional because it's just why does shitty things always happen to good people? Pedro is an openly gay man from Miami, Florida. In 1989, during his junior year of high school, he tested positive for HIV. He hoped to graduate high school before he died, and he did so in 1990. He soon became a full-time AIDS educator, speaking at schools, churches, and multiple conferences. He was convinced to try it for the real world by his roommate, who felt he could easily communicate his message on the show. He's open about his HIV diagnosis in the first episode, and some of the house react positively, but people like Rachel walk off, unsure how living with someone with HIV would affect her.
None of those things were discussed. Everybody else was just so much in adoration of his, accomplishments that me asking a question at that point would have made me the bitch.
Remember, it's 1993. HIV/AIDS education is not prominent. A lot of people were still believing things like if you touch somebody with HIV, you'll get it, or if you breathe the same air as them. It was very ridiculous, but people was not informed. Rachel would soon come around, however, and Pedro's biggest beef this season will be with Puck. Honestly, Puck has beef with everybody, minus Rachel. Puck is probably the worst roommate to ever be on the show. He had no good hygiene. He was dirty. He got into it with Pedro one time because Pedro saw him put his finger in the peanut butter that the house shared together, and it was like, dude, why are you just sticking your nasty fingers in the peanut butter? We see you don't wash your hands, you barely bathe, like that's nasty.
He walks right by me, puts his finger in the peanut butter, just licks it and goes on. I did it! That is the same hand that he was wiping in his shirt because he got, snot all over it.
And like I said, eventually the house gets sick of him. They vote him out by a majority vote, and he is replaced by Joe. Puck actually lives in San Francisco, so even though he's voted out of the house, they will still see him occasionally throughout the season. Pedro will meet a man named Sean, and they will begin to date. They get serious pretty quickly, with Pedro committing to staying in San Francisco after the show ends to be with him. Pedro progressively gets sicker as the show goes on and is continuously getting treatment.
Pedro and I have become very, very close. Pedro's my friend.
What are you supposed to do when your friend's dying?
He eventually gets better, and in the penultimate episode, he and Sean have a commitment ceremony, exchanging vows and wedding rings. This was actually the first time a same-sex commitment ceremony aired on TV, and remember, 1993, gays could not get married, so it was called a commitment ceremony. Very sadly, Pedro would pass away on November 11th, 1994 at 22 years old, just hours after the final episode of the season aired. He was surrounded by family and friends in his final hours after he was flown to a hospital in Miami to spend his final days. He even received a phone call from then President Bill Clinton thanking him for his work. MTV also aired a special memorial program following his death. His roommates on the season, Judd and Pam, who would eventually get married in 2001, were the closest to him, and they were actually there at the hospital when he passed away. In 2000, Judd made an autobiographical graphic novel called Pedro and Me regarding his friendship with Pedro. Pam, who eventually finished medical school and became a doctor, devoted her medical research to HIV and AIDS. Pedro's partner Sean would continue his work as an LGBT and HIV advocate. Sean was also HIV positive when he met Pedro. He would eventually remarry in 2013, but would sadly pass away the same year after being diagnosed with mesothelioma. Whew, okay, after all that sadness, I don't know what else to talk about with this season. I mean, I did talk about how much of a mess Puck was, but he would become even more of a mess on the challenge, which we'll talk about in the challenge video. He has a weird friendship slash flirtship with Rachel originally, but then, as I mentioned, Puck has beef with everyone, and that eventually leads to him and Rachel falling out. Speaking of Rachel, she has an interesting arc season, but I really don't want to talk about it. But she does marry a future Real World cast member, and together they will have 9 kids. Yes, 9 kids, N-I-N-E. But we'll talk a little bit more about her and him when we get to his season. The 4th season, London, premiered on June 28, 1995, making it the first time the show would film internationally. The season consisted of 23 30-minute episodes with the cast living together for 5 months. This season's cast was interesting as majority of the cast were non-Americans. We had Kat, a 19-year-old student from Washington, Neil, a 24-year-old singer from England, Jay, a 19-year-old aspiring actor from Oregon, Mike, a 21-year-old race car driver from Missouri, Lars, a 24-year-old student from Germany, Jacinda, a 22-year-old model from Australia, and Sharon, a 20-year-old singer from England. I'm not gonna hold y'all. I tried watching this season, but it is very boring in my opinion. The only big moment from the season I remember, because a lot of people talk about it, is I believe Neil was performing and he got his tongue bit off, or like the tip of his tongue bit off by a heckler in the crowd. It's weird, but he had to get a bunch of stitches to stitch his tongue back together. It's very weird and gross.
Look at his mouth. You don't need an ambulance to tell me not.
He is in the hospital?
Yeah.
There was blood everywhere.
Oh my god, blood. It was just everywhere.
It must just hurt so much.
But yeah, I couldn't get into London. I might need to try again because it is one of the few early seasons that is streamable on Paramount Plus, because after this season, the next season that you can stream on Paramount is season 9. So watch seasons 1 through 4 on Paramount if you want to. In my opinion, London is probably the worst of the 4, but maybe someone else will like it. The 5th season, Miami, premiered on July 10th, 1996. This season consisted of 22 30-minute episodes with the cast living together for 5 months. The season's cast included Sarah, a 25-year-old comic book store worker from California, Dan, a 21-year-old student from Kansas, Melissa, a 22-year-old student from Florida, Joe, a 25-year-old business owner from New York, Cynthia, a 22-year-old student from California, Flora, a 24-year-old college graduate from Massachusetts, and Mike, a 24-year-old from Florida. As mentioned in the intro, this season is the first season to have them do a job together, and they are given $50,000 to create a business, and they flopped at this so hard that they ended up not getting the money to do it because they could not come up with a business plan. Some memorable moments from this season include Mike having a threesome with 2 girls in the shower, and some of the cast tries to watch, but they end up breaking the window. Also, there's a huge fight between Melissa and Dan after Melissa opens Dan's mail, which is also another iconic moment that you'll see a lot.
What's your name on it?
Written on it. If it said Dan on the outside, I wouldn't hold
Yes, you would have.
Ever call me a bitch. Ever, you flamer. Don't talk to me.
Miami is another season that I haven't watched fully, so I can't go into super deep detail. However, like I mentioned, I want to do deep dives on individual seasons in the future, so that's when that'll come. You cannot stream this on Paramount Plus, it's not there as I mentioned earlier. However, if you can stomach the low quality, there are episodes posted on YouTube, and if you are a Jack Sparrow, if you catch my drift, you can probably find it somewhere online. Alright, hey y'all, ignore my appearance. Actually, you know what, I'm gonna take these eye masks off because it's so pretentious. I've had them on for like an hour and a half anyway. Alright, I'm coming to you live post-editing because there is a couple things I have to insert throughout this video because I filmed this video back in April. Today is July 11th. I may pop up like 3 or 4 times looking this terrible, so I apologize. But the first thing I need to talk about is number 1, Melissa does leave in episode 20 after getting into an argument with Sarah. It was kind of like building up, like she had been getting into it with a lot of people, and then that fight with Sarah just kind of like sent her over the edge. So she left the house. She lives in Miami, so she doesn't really have to go far. And then the second thing I need to talk about, unfortunately, is the passing of Sarah. When I filmed this video, I was kind of only talking about the people who had passed while the show was airing. But as I was doing my research, I discovered that Sarah passed away about 2 years ago, I believe, in 2024. And unfortunately, it was due to suicide. Apparently, she was just not in a great place mentally. She had suffered a skateboarding accident that kind of exacerbated, is that the word? But like, you know, made her mental health worse, which is really sad because her whole thing in her season was that like she loves skateboarding. Like in her intro package, she is skateboarding, and also in opening credits, she's skateboarding. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and, you know, rest in peace. The 6th season, Boston, premiered on July 15th, 1997, consisting of 23 30-minute episodes. The cast includes Elka, a 19-year-old from Texas, Jason, a 24-year-old from Colorado, Montana, a 21-year-old from New York, Genesis, a 20-year-old from Mississippi, Sean, a 25-year-old from Wisconsin, Camila, a 19-year-old from California, and Cyrus, a 25-year-old from California. For work this season, the cast volunteered with children at an after-school program. After some initial hesitance about working with kids, they all end up really enjoying it. However, Montana ended up getting fired after giving kids sips of alcohol on a field trip. Excuse me?
They did ask me for it, and I said no. And that's when I turned around and talked to Cyrus. And then that's when they took it.
But I basically have no other course of action but to terminate your employment within the agency, effective immediately.
This is all from the Wikipedia because I have not watched the season, but that's insane. But I looked more into it. I'll talk about it in a second. She actually doesn't get removed from the house because before season 10, the jobs weren't mandatory. However, in their contract for doing the show, she had to do at least 20 volunteer hours per week. So she had to find another place to volunteer at, which she does. She eventually finds something at a shelter. This season also featured the first lesbian cast on the show, Genesis, which is crazy because I just mentioned Genesis in, was that my Degrassi video? My most recent Degrassi video where I said Genesis was a cast member on The Real World. I don't think there's any books in the Bible named after a woman. I mean, Genesis. There was a Genesis on The Real World back in the day. Anyway, what the fuck? She originally had some issues with Elka, who comes from a super religious background. However, for the most part, a lot of the people are cool in the house about her being a lesbian. There's also a really important scene where Genesis and Camila are at their job with the kids, and they talk with one of them about how they feel about gay people.
I don't like gay people.
You don't like gay people?
No, I just have a feeling that I hate them.
You hate them? That's a strong word.
Hate them? My mother tells me not to hang around with gay people, I guess.
The last person to mention on this season is Sean. Remember in the San Francisco season, I mentioned Rachel and how she married a future real worlder and had 9 kids. Yes, that person is Sean. Rachel and Sean met on the very first season of The Challenge, which was called Road Rules All-Stars. And from there, they got married, they had 9 kids. They are actually super Republican. Rachel was, and I think she still is, a commentator on Fox News. Sean has held several political seats, but as of 2025, he is the United States, what is it? The United States Secretary of Transportation, anointed by Trump. Trump clearly has a bias towards reality stars turned politicians because, I mean, obviously he's one, but you know what? We're not even gonna get into that. I don't know if I'm actually gonna put this in the video because I honestly don't care that much, but while I was editing this video, Miss Rachel and Mr. Sean Duffy goes back to their reality TV roots by doing a TV series where they and their gaggle of kids go across the country on this great American road trip. And it's like, dude, don't you have something better to do? Like, you're the entire like United States Department of Transportation president or whatever the fuck it's called. Like, shouldn't you be like actually doing work instead of like filming yet another reality TV show? Like, don't piss me off. I just needed to bring that up because it's so stupid. The 7th season, Seattle, premiered on June 16th, 1998, consisting of 20 30-minute episodes. This cast includes Janet, a 21-year-old from Illinois, Nathan, a 21-year-old from Virginia, Rebecca, a 19-year-old from Virginia, Lindsay, a 21-year-old from Colorado, Steven, a 20-year-old from California, Irene, a 22-year-old from New York, and David, a 21-year-old from Massachusetts. This season was also the first season to feature 2 cast members who knew each other prior to the show, with David and Nathan both knowing each other from being cadets at the Virginia Military Institute. This season's job had them working at a local radio station where they did various production duties, but the final assignment was for them to produce and host a live broadcast themselves. This season is the first since San Francisco to have someone leave, with Irene leaving in episode 15. Irene had a lot going on this season, the biggest being her having Lyme disease. She keeps it hidden from the cast until episode 14, the episode before she leaves the house. She's constantly sick throughout the season, missing out on group gatherings and work events. She eventually gets medicine for treatment, however, she's still having issues with the rest of the house, acting very erratically. After getting into an argument with her biggest op in the house, which is Steven, she decides to leave the house. Before she leaves though, she accuses Steven of being gay, and him being unsure about himself is why he's always angry. In retaliation, he takes Irene's stuffed dog that he stole earlier in the season and throws it into the water. He then stops Irene's taxi, opens the door, and slaps her. Production decides to let the cast watch what happened and then decide whether Steven should stay or go. They watch and are all shocked, but they decide to let Steven stay, but he has to go to anger management, which he agrees to do. Side note, after the show, Steven is arrested for prostitution in 2001 and then again in 2002 for stealing a car. In 2008 at the Real World Awards Bash, he would come out as gay. Actually, I don't know if he came out before the awards bash, but he does show up to the awards bash with a husband. Not you physically assaulted a woman on TV because she accused you of being gay, just for you to come out anyway. You gotta remember, when did the season premiere? 1998. I mean, being gay was still considered, it's still, people call people gay as an insult today in 2026, but back then it was even more prevalent and people took more offense to it. So I see why he would be mad, but to hit her is insane. The fact that you weren't arrested is crazy. He also said at the awards bash that he and Irene talked after the show and, he apologized and that they're good friends, but Nathan, who was both their roommates on their season, said that that's not true. Irene seems to be doing well today, as she actually popped up on my For You page maybe last year or the year before that on TikTok, and I believe it was through her daughter, and I think she was talking about like her time on the show with her daughter, and it was something like that, I forget, but she seems to be doing good.
McGee left the show during filming due to ethical objections.
Yeah.
Oh, so you stood on business.
They were talking about reality TV, and I said I used to be on The Real World. This is Sarah.
Hi, I don't know what The Real World is.
The 8th season, Hawaii, aired on June 15th, 1999, with 23 30-minute episodes filmed over 5 months. The Hawaii cast consists of Amaya, a 21-year-old from California, Colin, a 19-year-old from California, Justin, a 21-year-old from Texas, Kaya, a 22-year-old from Illinois, Matt, a 22-year-old from California, Ruthie, a 21-year-old from Hawaii, and Tech, a 22-year-old from Illinois. The cast job this season was working at a clothing and surf apparel store where they also booked in-store entertainment. The biggest storyline this season was that of Miss Ruthie, who was a native to Hawaii, but I believe at the time she was attending school at Rutgers University. She has a major drinking problem this season. I believe in the very first episode, she gets alcohol poisoning and blacks out. And even later in the season, she would get caught on camera driving drunk. Like literally, you see on camera her driving and like she's swerving all across the road. It's really bad. After the driving drunk incident, the cast sit down with Ruthie and they're like, girl, you need help. Like either you go to rehab or you need to leave the house. Ruthie is annoyed by being given an ultimatum and she decides to try to bargain with them, being like, hey, I'll just not drink the rest of the time here and you know, I'll go to a clinic, but I'm not going for a month. And the cast is like, girl, no, either you go for the full month or you leave the house. Ruthie, really annoyed by this, decides to leave the house. However, she does return to the house 4 episodes later. Other than that, Justin is another person who leaves the house during the season. He cites a family emergency. I believe he had like a family member that was in the hospital, but he also didn't get along with the cast too much. So a lot of people kind of took it as him just not wanting to be there anymore. But yeah, that's really it. Like I said, you'll know when I've actually seen a season. It's because I talk about a lot more drama. But yeah, this season can't be streamed anywhere either. There are very low quality episodes uploaded on YouTube, so you can watch it there. The 9th season, New Orleans, premiered on June 14, 2000. Consisting of 23 30-minute episodes filmed over the course of 4 months. The cast includes Jamie, a 22-year-old from Illinois, Matt, a 21-year-old from Georgia, Melissa, a 22-year-old from Florida, Danny, a 22-year-old from Georgia, Kelly, a 21-year-old from Arkansas, Julie, a 21-year-old from Wisconsin, and David, a 22-year-old from Illinois. The cast job this season was working for a New Orleans public access TV station, with each cast member being responsible for producing a segment each week. We are back to talking about a season that I've actually watched, as this season is the first season since London that you can stream on Paramount+. The biggest storyline this season to me is that of Danny. Danny is a gay man who is in a relationship with a man named Paul who is in the military. Due to the then don't ask, don't tell policy, Paul's face was blurred anytime he appeared on camera, whether in person or in photos. If you don't know, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a policy enacted in 1994 by then President Bill Clinton. This policy barred openly gay, lesbian, or bisexual people from being in the military. And if you were in the army, you cannot talk about being gay. Don't say gay because you can't talk about it. You can't talk about it, and obviously you can't, engage in homosexual acts. During his 2008 presidential campaign, Obama openly advocated to appeal the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, and it was officially appealed in 2010, with the policy being fully removed in September of 2011. After Paul's time in the military ended, Danny and him appeared on MTV together with his face unblurred. Another big storyline was that of Julie. Julie this season kind of played the role that Julie played in season 1, and oh my god, it's just now clicking to me that they share the same name. But Julie in season 1, John in season 2, Julie kind of plays that role. She is a very sheltered Mormon who at the time was attending BYU. She hadn't really been around gay people. She hadn't really been around black people. So she was kind of just doing a lot of learning and growing throughout the season. Watching New Orleans was interesting because I had only known Julie through her stints on The Challenge. She becomes a pretty big mainstay in the earlier seasons of The Challenge. And I knew her to be batshit crazy on The Challenge.
Oh, totally wrestle.
Should I promote it?
Seriously, go ask her.
She wants to wrestle you.
I don't wrestle. I beat bitches up.
So seeing her on The Real World and be kind of normal and just kind of interested of learning and just open-minded was very surprising. I understand now why she was on the good guys team on the Inferno 2 if you just look at her Real World appearance. But her Challenge appearance is insane. I cannot wait to talk about Challenge. Lastly, I want to talk about David and his song Come On Be My Baby Tonight. Come
on, be my baby tonight. I've seen the way you've treated other thugs you've been with. Come on, be my baby tonight.
Even though the internet wasn't as big as it is today, his song went kind of viral. I don't even know how you would describe a song that doesn't go... how would you describe something... phenomenon? I don't know. He got a lot of recognition outside the show for his song to the point where he was performing it at places. He even did it on the Dave Chappelle show. So Shout out to David. This wouldn't be the last time we see the New Orleans cast all together because they would participate in the final season of Real World Homecoming, airing in 2022, over 20 years after their original season. This was also the first season where the entire cast actually came back and were living together under one roof. As remember, in the Los Angeles cast, they were missing 2 cast members, and then in the New York Homecoming, Eric only participated virtually because he had COVID. So this season was the first season to get all 7 roommates back together. And this season was a mess, hot mess express, and it was because of Julie. Like I said, Julie was pretty level-headed on her original season, batshit crazy on the challenge, and she was batshit crazy on Homecoming. They were going out and she was getting plastered, and a lot of people, especially Melissa, was like, girl, we are in our 40s. Like, we can't be going out and getting drunk to the point where we can't walk, we're falling over, people gotta carry us out the club. Like, we are in our 40s. Like, yeah, you know, you can go out and have a drink, you know, have a good time, but getting blackout, wasted, can't stand up, loss of all motor function is insane.
Oh, hell no. And I'm like, okay, am I really 44 years old and this is happening?
And it gets to the point where one night they go out, pretty much get kicked out the club because Julie's acting a mess. Julie can't even walk. She's like barely in the car. The car door opens when they get to the house. She falls face first into the concrete. She can't keep her body up. She's like sprinting, trying to get to the house, and she runs like head on into a tree, like insane. And then the next day she seems kind of like, oh, I don't even know what happened last night. Not to the point, like, you know, you wake up after a crazy night of drinking and you're like, I don't remember. It's not like she didn't remember, but it's like almost like she didn't know about all the physical pain she went through until she started having bruises. And she accused David, who now goes by Tokyo, of being aggressive with her when he was trying to get her out the club, which is why she has bruises. And everybody in the house is like, no, that's not what happened. We were all there in our right minds. David was one of the few people who was actually trying to keep you protected and, you know, comfort you and like take care of you while you were batshit drunk. And she was just like,
no, I remember him being aggressive with me, taking me out of the club, grabbing my arm really hard and pulling me. That's why I have these bruises.
Everybody was like, girl, that is not what happened. And the optics of you accusing this black man of being aggressive with you does not look good.
I cannot believe you are not leading with gratitude for this person who all night helped take care of you. Let's not start blaming bruises and stuff on the black person that helped you.
It was insane. And then Julie was in a hot tub on the phone with her boyfriend or somebody like that. And Melissa and Kelly overhear Julie on the phone talking about,
everybody in the house is so boring. They're like old and they don't want to have a good time. And I'm just trying to make good TV. And they're making it really hard for me to make good TV.
And they're like, girl, there's a way to make good TV. You getting drunk and plastered is not a way to make good TV, especially at your big age. It was crazy.
Julie is missing the point. These social experiments have the ability to actually change something.
Early in the finale, Kelly would leave before they actually officially move out, mostly due to Julie's antics. However, everything is not what it seems. Shout out to Alex Russo. Because apparently Kelly moved out after the Julie accusing Tokyo of being aggressive with her thing. And that happened midway through the season. Yeah, it was very weird that they somehow had her appear in every episode, even though she moved out halfway through. It was weird. And then a lot of the other cast started coming out and saying, like, yeah, a lot of what was shown on the show didn't happen when it was shown on the show. It was very odd, which is why maybe the show ended up getting canceled, but it doesn't explain why y'all pulled the entire series from Paramount Plus. I don't understand that. It's stupid. Because I was very excited to see them bring a lot more of these casts together. This could have been an entirely new like era for the real world. Like, bring these old casts back. And a lot of people was very confused as to why they went from season 1 to season 2 to season 9 when it came to bringing people back. But apparently they did reach out to, hold on, I wrote it in my notes. They reached out to the cast of San Francisco, Boston, Seattle, and Hawaii, but they could not agree to get everyone to come back, which I don't understand why that's an excuse, because the Los Angeles homecoming had 2 people sit out. I mean, I guess it probably was a lot of them, not just 2 of them. I don't know. Yeah, this will be the last season of the Real World Homecoming, and like I said, you cannot watch this on streaming anymore. It's very sad. The show celebrated its 10th season by taking it back to where it all began, New York City. The Real World Back to New York premiered on July 3rd, 2001, consisting of 22 30-minute episodes filmed over 5 months. This marked the first time the show repeated a city. The cast consists of my mother, Coral, 21 years old from California. I had to make sure y'all know that because Coral is probably my favorite person to ever be on The Real World. My mother raised me. Kevin, a 22-year-old from Texas. Nicole, a 22-year-old from Georgia. Rachel, an 18-year-old from Illinois. Mike, a 20-year-old from Ohio. Lori, a 21-year-old from New Jersey. And Malik, a 23-year-old from California. This season's job was at a record company, and this was the first time where working the job was mandatory, so if they decide to quit the job or get fired, they will have to leave the show. The biggest storyline of the season was the friendship no one saw coming between Coral and Mike. Mike is from a small town in Ohio, and he says himself that he rarely interacted with Black people or gay people. Coral and Malik was a bit different for him. He didn't know a lot about anything, with one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen was Coral and I believe Malik informing him that February is Black History Month because he had no idea.
Is this Black History Month? Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell no. That's not I'm talking about. Get on the internet, man.
So what you do when you go on the internet?
I don't need to. Don't ask me about what I do. Don't celebrate your ignorance, brother.
Y'all see Mike, y'all probably like, hey, this guy looks really familiar. Like, where have I seen him before? During the season, he had an alternate persona, a wrestler named The Miz. He would go by that nickname throughout his time on the show, both on The Real World and The Challenge. And he would eventually sign with the WWE in 2004 and still wrestles as The Miz to this day. And it's not like, oh, he's just some regular ass wrestler, like nobody really knows him. Like, no, he's like a huge deal in the WWE, in the wrestling world. Like, he's like one of the most iconic, one of the most decorated wrestlers in the history of the WWE. So he's like a big deal over there, and he got his start on The Real World. So that's pretty cool. All right, please ignore the fact that I have on a hoodie now. The lighting may be different. The setup may be different. It's later in the day. I can't sit and film for 2 hours straight because my undiagnosed ADHD cannot handle that. So we continue on with season 11. The 11th season, Chicago, premiered on January 15, 2002, consisting of 24 30-minute episodes that were filmed a little over 4 months. The cast consists of Carrie, a 22-year-old from Louisiana, Kyle, a 23-year-old from Illinois, Anissa, a 20-year-old from Pennsylvania, Tanya, a 21-year-old from Washington, Chris, a 24-year-old from Massachusetts, Cara, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts, and Theo, a 19-year-old from California. For this season's mandatory job, they worked various jobs at the Chicago Park District, including being a lifeguard at the Lake Michigan beaches and working with inner city children doing a park mural. This season actually marked the first time there were 2 gay people cast at the same time, being Chris and Anissa. At the time, Anissa identified as a lesbian, but on later appearances of the challenge, she would identify as bisexual. You might recognize Anissa because she still competes on the challenge to this day. And another cast member on this cast, Tanya, would also be a big mainstay on the challenge before she had an unfortunate event happen to her in one of the later challenges, which all of this will be talked about in the challenge video. I keep bringing up the challenge, but it's so important to the real world. Like, it's hard not to. This season was actually filming when the 9/11 attacks happened in New York City. Thankfully, the previous season, Back to New York, had wrapped up production in June 2001, 3 months before 9/11. The Real World houses typically do not have TVs in them. However, due to the nature of what was going on, producers brought a TV in so that they could watch the news coverage. There was some controversy about this because it was discovered that the cast actually were out at Wrigley Park when they found out about the 9/11 attacks and not at home like the show portrayed it to be. So people felt like them watching it was kind of staged. However, production says that, you know, it wasn't staged at all. They were out when the attacks happened. However, they hadn't seen any of the footage. Like, you know, if you were around for 9/11, the news coverage was intense back then. They actually showed what had happened. So they had only heard what happened, and them seeing what was going on for the first time on screen was actually how it happened. Like, those reactions weren't fake. The 12th season, Las Vegas, premiered on September 17, 2002 and consisted of 28 30-minute episodes, which is the most of any season so far. This was also the first time a season premiered in the same calendar year, with both Chicago and Las Vegas premiering in 2002. The cast consists of Arissa, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts, Frank, a 22-year-old from Pennsylvania, Trishelle, a 22-year-old from Louisiana, Bryn, a 21-year-old from Oregon, Alton, a 22-year-old from California, Steven, a 23-year-old from Texas, and Irulan, a 21-year-old from New York. With the show being filmed in Vegas and also filming at the Palms Hotel, they asked for everyone on the cast to be 21 or older, which this actually marked the first time in the show's history where everyone on the cast was over the age of 21. The mandatory jobs this season consisted of them doing various jobs at the casino that they were living at, including doing promo work for the nightclub, cocktail waiting, and go-go dancing. A lot of people will tell you that Las Vegas is one of, if not the best seasons of The Real World. A lot of people will also argue that this is the season where The Real World kind of became more sensationalized, where it became more about the hookups and fights rather than real conversations. And if you ask me, I love mess, so I love The Real World Las Vegas. I do like them having deep and intimate conversations, and I mean, that still does happen on this season and in later seasons, but also, you can definitely tell with this season, like, they really ramped up the hookups, the fights, the drama, the relationship drama, all that stuff. Alton and Irulan would develop a relationship this season, and it would continue after the show. Steven and Trishelle also develop a relationship on the show. Some people may recognize Trishelle as she was most recently on the second season of The Traitors, which she actually won with CT, who was also on The Real World, but we'll talk about him in a second. Steven, Trishelle, and Brynn shared a threesome makeout session episode 3, and Brynn developed feelings for Steven, but he was more into Trishelle, causing drama between Steven and Brynn, which accumulated into her getting into an argument with him, and she attacked him with a fork. I think she stabbed him, maybe? I don't remember.
Stupid. You're this and that, and I the fork and I threw it at him and hit him in the arm.
I could have easily been right to his face, right to his nose, right to his eye. It was like she threw that fork with some malice force.
She was almost removed from the show, but after talking with Steven, she was allowed to stay. Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to Vegas is I believe that Alton was my gay awakening. Like, I completely forgot about Alton until I did the script for this video. I always am a little bit confused about who was my gay awakening because it's just been so long. But I remember watching Alton on The Challenge specifically when I was younger, and I'm like, this man is fine. He's fine.
My roommates are always talk about or whatever. It's a 9 3/4, regular old young, you know what I mean? Just whatever. It's not the 8th roommate.
So we've talked about The Real World Homecoming, where they reunited the New York, Los Angeles, and New Orleans cast decades after their time on the show. However, due to the popularity of Las Vegas and its cast, they actually got the first ever reunion special. In 2007, they had a 7-episode reunion series called Reunited: The Real World Las Vegas. In this reunion series, we saw the cast deal with their interpersonal relationships since their season ended, which included stuff that they went through off camera and stuff that we saw mostly on The Challenge. For example, a lot of people didn't really like Arissa because they found her to be pretentious. Frank dated a girl named Angela who was on Road Rules, who he met on one of the challenges, broke up with her, and then started dating another girl named Jillian who was also on Road Rules the same season as Angela. It was messy. We catch up with Brynn and we find out that she got married after the show and had 3 kids. That's insane. She had 3 kids in 5 years. And then also Alton and Irulan entered the reunion as exes, as they dated for 3 years after the show, so it was actually a really serious relationship. They actually went on one of the challenges after their season of The Real World where they were heavily together and a lot of people were annoyed by them. And then also Trishelle, who they weren't even sure was going to make it to this reunion series because she actually had the biggest success out of anybody after the show. Like, she did Playboy, she did some other stuff. They weren't sure she was going to show up, but she does, and everybody's kind of shocked that she actually came. She actually dated The Miz. Remember him, the wrestler? But yeah, overall I feel like Las Vegas is required viewing. You can stream this season on Paramount Plus, the original series, not the reunion series. I have no idea where you can watch that. It's so funny how a lot of these seasons is just lost media, because I do remember watching Reunited: The Real World Las Vegas, and the fact that you really can't find it anywhere, you have to dig deep. Actually, I don't know, I'm gonna look it up really quick. Reunited: The Real World Las Vegas. Oh, it's on Daily Motion. It's literally on Daily Motion, all episodes. Oh, there's a lot of Real World. Oh, I know where I'm going to be doing my screen recording. There's a lot of episodes of The Real World in the challenge on Daily Motion. Oh my God.
Perfect. Hey, have a good day.
And the fact that 2007 footage looks like this, why does it look like it's from the 80s? I'm so old. Anyway, let's go to the next season. The 13th season, Paris, premiered on June 3rd, 2003, consisting of 24 30-minute episodes filmed over 4 months. This was the first season since London and season 4 to be fully filmed outside the United States. The cast consists of Ace, a 24-year-old from Georgia, specifically from Statesboro, Georgia, which I haven't mentioned the cities these people live in, I just be mentioning the states. But as a Georgia native, well, not technically native. Like I always say I'm from Georgia. Like I always say, if someone asks me my hometown, I tell them Augusta, Georgia. I was actually born in Tampa, Florida, but I moved to Georgia when I was 8 and lived there pretty much all my life up until 4 years ago when I moved to North Carolina. But yeah, as a Georgia native, I have to shout out Statesboro, Georgia, because I feel like Ace is the closest to Augusta that any cast member has ever lived. Statesboro is like what? Like an hour and a half from Augusta? I've been to Statesboro a couple times, so shout out to Statesboro, Georgia. Let's continue. Adam, a 23-year-old from California. CT, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts. Christina, a 24-year-old from Nevada. Leah, a 22-year-old from New York. Mallory, a 19-year-old from Illinois. And Simon, an 18-year-old from Ireland. This season's required job had the cast writing for Frommer's, a travel guide, reviewing Paris's bars, clubs, and other places. They would get a bonus if everyone completed their weekly assignments, which they rarely did. I have not seen The Real World Paris. I've only seen clips. So a lot of this comes from me just kind of looking at the Wikipedia, both like the official Wikipedia page and like the Real World Wiki. But I found Simon interesting because he was one of the first like gay people to be cast on the show, where like him being gay wasn't like an internal struggle or like something that they like kind of, how do I explain it? He talks about how he came out when he was like 16 and his family was very accepting of it, so he is able to fully be himself because he had a lot of people in his life who like loved him and like allowed him to really like truly be himself. And this was like one of the first times we saw that on the show, because previous gay people like Danny from New Orleans, he was not really too open about talking about his sexuality. And he also had the boyfriend who was in the military. You had Norman in the very first season, granted that was 1992, and I mean Paris was 2003, but I mean, I don't know, I just found it interesting and pretty cool that Simon was just like a young guy from Ireland and he had family that supported him. And as I mentioned in the Las Vegas section, Trishelle won season 2 of The Traitors with CT. This was CT's start on reality TV as a cast member on The Real World Paris. He will go on to be an MTV icon, appearing in many challenges, winning, I think he's won 5 challenges total. I think he ties second, because the most challenges won is Bananas, who we'll talk about in a few seasons. And then I believe Jordan from a later season of The Real World, a much later season, and CT are tied with 5 challenge wins. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, CT becomes a huge mainstay. A little problematic at the beginning of his career. We'll get into that later. Not in this video, the challenge video. I keep talking about this challenge video. I'm sorry. CT was polarizing on this season of The Real World, however. He got into it with a lot of people. His biggest beef is with Adam, and they actually get into a little physical, not really physical altercation. Like CT just pushes him and he also mushes him in the face.
All you do is talk. All you do is talk. All you do is talk. CT quit. CT, you quit right now.
So yeah, him and Adam do not get along at all. And I hate to bring up the challenge again, but 6 years later, after their season of The Real World, they are on a challenge together and they actually get into a physical altercation. Probably one of the worst physical altercations you would ever see on reality TV, but I am not going to talk about it. The challenge. Oh my god, I cannot wait to do this video. The 14th season of The Real World San Diego premiered on January 6, 2004, consisting of 26 30-minute episodes filmed over 4 months. This season is actually special to me because this is the first ever season that I watched of The Real World, and it was while it was airing. So that means January 2004, I was 9. Why was I watching? That can't be right. No, that can't be right. I gotta do a little quick search because I don't think, that don't make sense. Hold on. Okay, this ran from January 6th to June 29th, 2004. And the only reason why I'm questioning when I watched this is because my first actual introduction to all of this was the Real World Road Rules Challenge, The Inferno, which I'm pretty sure either aired in tandem with this season of Real World or before. So yeah, this aired in tandem. Like I said, the Real World San Diego premiered on January 6th, 2004. The Inferno premiered on February 2nd, 2004, which was like a month later, and ran till May 31st. So yeah, they aired at the same time. So the first ever of any of this I watched was The Inferno, and since San Diego was airing at the same time, that's how I got into watching The Real World. So San Diego always holds a special place in my heart as the very first Real World season I ever knew of. And once again, I was 9 years old. The original cast of this season consisted of Brad, a 22-year-old from Illinois, Cameron, a 19-year-old from South Carolina, Frankie, a 21-year-old from Missouri, Jacquees, a 19-year-old from New Jersey, Jamie, a 20-year-old from California, Randy, a 24-year-old from Massachusetts, and Robin, a 22-year-old from Florida. This season's required job had them working at the San Diego Bay as crew members on a boat, from doing tours, preparing boats for excursions, and also doing a course in sailing. This season was the first season since season 3 to have a replacement roommate come in, being Charlie, an 18-year-old from Serbia. He replaced Frankie, who left the house in episode 22. When I first typed this script, I was kind of surprised, and even like when I watched it, I remember like them bringing Charlie in like literally at the tail end of the season. Frankie left in episode 22. There was 26 seasons, so he was only in the last 3 or 4 episodes, but doing my research, I actually found out why. And I'm gonna read directly from the script so I don't get anything wrong. So enjoy B-roll of the season while I read. Also, quick trigger warning for sexual assault. A 22-year-old woman claimed that she was sexually assaulted in the Real World house during filming on November 14, 2003 by a man named Justin, who was an acquaintance of Randy, one of the cast members. The woman claimed he bought her a drink and that she blacked out afterwards. Jamie had found the woman the next morning, and while cameras were rolling, she helped her by moving her from the living room to the guest bedroom. She tried to talk to the woman, but Jamie said that she was disoriented and had difficulty speaking. She eventually helped the woman call a friend to have her get home. After feeling pain in her genital area, she reported the incident to the police on November 16th, 2 days after the alleged assault. According to the police, the woman said that she was drugged, brought to the Real World house, and assaulted in the bathroom, as that's one of the places in the house that doesn't have cameras. It honestly gets a lot messier from here, and I really don't want to get too much into detail, so look that up if you want. But this actually explains why Charlie was only in the last few episodes of the season, because an entire month of the show ended up on the cutting room floor. Like, they didn't show it on the season, and it actually came out that Charlie was in the house for just as long as Frankie was in the house, like the same amount of time. However, they had to extend or add a lot more of Frankie in the house, because a lot of the time that Charlie was in the house was during all that assault stuff, and they couldn't put it in the show. So that's why Charlie was only in 4 episodes. And unfortunately, we do have to talk about another sad thing, which is Frankie. Frankie was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 3 years old and dealt with numerous hospital stays the older she got. Frankie considered leaving the house as early as episode 8 after dealing with issues with her boyfriend back home.
So you left the boyfriend back home. How'd he take it?
He's not happy.
Really?
But we're getting through it.
The cast had found out that Frankie cuts herself, and all the girls get together to talk to her about it, with Frankie asking Jamie to accompany her to a mental health therapist. After having more issues with some of her roommates and being homesick, she decides to leave. Sadly, on June 9th, 2007, 3 years after the show, Frankie would pass away due to complications of cystic fibrosis at the age of 25, becoming the second Real World cast member to pass away after Pedro from the San Francisco season. Outside of that, Jamie had one of the biggest careers out of anybody on the Real World, becoming a pretty successful actress, and Cameron would return to reality TV in 2014, becoming part of the cast of Bravo's Southern Charm, and staying on the show for its first 6 seasons. Alright, let's move on to the next season, because this season was pretty sad to talk about, even though, I do love this season for being the first season I ever watched. But I did not know about all that background information about the woman and why Charlie only was in the last 3 episodes of the season, so had to let you guys know about that. The 15th season, Philadelphia, premiered on September 7th, 2004, consisting of 26 30-minute episodes filmed over 4 months. The cast consists of Karamo, a 23-year-old from Florida, Landon, a 24-year-old from Wisconsin, Melanie, a 21-year-old from California, MJ, a 23-year-old from Tennessee, Sarah, a 23-year-old from Florida, Shavonda, a 21-year-old from California, and Willie, a 23-year-old from New York. This season was the first season to have 2 openly gay men, Karamo and Willie, which we'll talk about in a bit. This season's mandatory job had them working for the Philadelphia Soul, an arena football team. As I mentioned, this season had 2 openly gay men, Karamo and Willie. However, if you ask the cast when they first moved in, Willie was the only gay person, as Karamo back then was giving you guys, trade down, DL trade. Actually, I hate that I just said DL trade. I hate that phrase because people have ruined the true meaning of DL and trade. DL, trade can't coexist. Being DL and being trade are 2 different things. Karamo is giving trade. Most people know Karamo now as he's had major success outside the show. He has his own talk show, and he also got his really big break being a part of Netflix's Queer Eye. So a lot of people know who Karamo is. I don't know if a lot of people know that he got his start in the Real World. But yeah, Karamo was definitely able to pass that straight, only telling Shavonda in the first episode that he was gay, and then eventually telling the rest of the house. He was most nervous to tell MJ and Landon, the two straight white bros, but they were pretty cool with it.
Yeah, I'm gay.
I would never have guessed. I would never have guessed.
Yeah. Doctor, I just want to tell you that. I truly do. And ain't nothing gonna change between us.
He also dealt with racial profiling after police apprehended him thinking that he had a weapon for no reason at all. And he was kind of upset because his roommates were with him, most specifically MJ, and he didn't have his back.
No, I don't want to talk about it. I'm making a bigger scene about it. I'm sitting here like with a mellow voice. Just come down for a second. You're not understanding me because you've never been in this situation. Stop, please.
Other than that, nothing really too crazy happened this season. I believe Landon and Shavonda dated during the show and then after the show for a little bit, but I really don't remember. Landon would become one of the most successful challengers as well. We haven't seen him in a minute though. People have been begging for Landon to come back to the challenge. I don't think he will, but it will be really cool if he did. The 16th season, Austin, premiered on June 21st, 2005, consisting of 24 30-minute episodes filmed over 5 months. The cast consisted of Danny, a 21-year-old from Massachusetts, Johanna, a 21-year-old from California, Lacey, a 23-year-old from Florida, Melinda, a 21-year-old from Wisconsin, Nehemiah, a 19-year-old from California, Rachel, a 21-year-old from California, and Wes, a 19-year-old from Kansas. This season's required job had the cast shoot, edit, and direct their own documentary on the South by Southwest Music Festival. Also, is another really popular season to be crowned as one of the best, including Las Vegas. I don't know. I mean, I like Austin. If you ask me which one I like more, Las Vegas or Austin, I'm telling you Las Vegas. And honestly, I can name like 4 other seasons I like more than Austin. Like before Austin, not any of the future seasons. Like I can tell you I like New York season 1 better than Austin. I like Los Angeles season 2 better than Austin. I like season 3 San Francisco. Oh no, yeah, season 3 San Francisco. I like that a lot more than Austin. It's better than London, I can tell you that. I'm trying to think of other seasons I've watched. It's better than Philadelphia. I say it's better than San Diego too. It's not better than New Orleans in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not like that big on Austin. But yeah, it is a very popular choice as favorite season, just not for me. One of the big moments of the season that you'll see a lot, which is actually a sad moment, is Danny finding out that his mom passed away while filming. He ended up having to leave the show to go like tend to his family and go to the funeral. They weren't sure he was gonna come back, but he actually ends up coming back, which a lot of people in the house was very happy that he came back. But another big moment of the season, which happened before Danny found out his mom passed, is that he got his ass kicked on the streets of Austin so bad to the point where like he got hit in the face and it broke his bone, like the bone surrounding his eye. What is it called? I wrote it in my notes. I actually didn't write it in my notes. It was probably too long of a word to write, so I just said he got a severe fracture of a bone surrounding his left eye, which this is my left eye. He ended up having to get surgery. If I remember correctly, he was actually sucker punched. I think I remember him being flipped on the ground. He was kind of incapacitated after that. Like he got put on the ground and he was like, oh my God, I just got put on the ground. He's just kind of laying there in the street. And then a guy just come up to him while he's on the ground and said, boom. This season was also a season of showmances. We had Danny and Melinda pretty much date throughout the season, and also Wes and Johanna. Both of these couples will end up going on the challenge following this, Fresh Meat, and they will get picked off one by one. Except for Wes. Wes actually ended up making it to the final of that season, but it was just really funny seeing them go on the challenge. And one of the things on the challenge, which like I said, I'll talk about in the challenge video, but I guess I'll give you guys a sneak peek. One of the things on the challenge that is very common is rookies or people doing their first challenge being sent home first or being thrown into eliminations very early. And that's pretty much what they did with the Austin cast, but they also were just annoyed because they were these two couples being annoying. Like I said, Wes and Johanna would continue the day after the show. We saw them on Fresh Meat as a couple, but they would eventually break up. I think they dated for like a year or two. Danny and Melinda, on the other hand, dated for a while after the show. They actually ended up getting married, I believe, in 2008. But then during the premiere of one of the later challenges, Cutthroat, which premiered in 2010, Melinda was on that season, and she tells us that she and Danny are in the middle of a divorce.
I married Danny from my season of Real World Austin. We are currently going through divorce. This is my first time being on any show without Danny.
Before we finish off the season, I have to acknowledge Mr. Wes Bergman. He becomes a pretty consistent mainstay on MTV, The Challenge. I believe he was also on a recent season of The Traitors. I think he was on season 3. Even though he's considered one of the best challengers to play, He doesn't really have the wins to show for it. I think he's only won 2 challenges, because I'm thinking of people like CT who won 5, Bananas, who we'll talk about in just a minute, who's won 7. So he doesn't really get the like best challenger ever moniker. It's because people always target him very early on because they know he's a threat, not just physically but mentally as well. He's like a really good strategic player, so he's always targeted very early, which is why he doesn't have a lot of wins, but people still consider him one of the best to be on the challenge. And he has a really big rivalry with Bananas, who we will talk about right now. The 17th season, Key West, premiered on February 28, 2006, consisting of 25 30-minute episodes filmed over 4 months. The cast consists of Zach, a 22-year-old from Washington, Jose, a 20-year-old from New York, Paula, a 23-year-old from Connecticut, John, later known as Bananas, a 22-year-old from California, Janelle, a 23-year-old from California, Tyler, a 23-year-old from Minnesota, and Svetlana, a 19-year-old from Pennsylvania. This season's mandatory job had them start up a tanning salon business. One of the biggest stories of the season came due to the location at which they filmed, Key West, Florida. This season filmed from August 2005 to December 2005, making nearly half the filming time occur during the Atlantic hurricane season. In the premiere episode, they were all finally able to move into the house in Key West after waiting in separate locations due to Hurricane Katrina. In episode 10, they had to push back the opening of their tanning salon and evacuate the West Palm Beach due to Hurricane Rita. Later in the season, in episode 18, they had to evacuate the Fort Lauderdale due to Hurricane Wilma. However, the storm was still coming their way, so in the following episode, they would go from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando.
No idea what's going on. We open the door, and the entire wall on the 14th floor has collapsed in.
They returned home after Hurricane Wilma to significant damage to their house and to their business. I guess we could talk about Bananas. I've mentioned him already. He's one of the biggest names on MTV, specifically for his challenge appearances. On The Real World, he was just a typical white frat bro. Like, he didn't really make super waves. He also really didn't even make waves in his first challenge season because he actually got eliminated first. However, he would become the most winningest challenger of all time. Like I said, he's won 7 seasons. And as of 2026, Bananas has appeared in 26 seasons of the challenge. And as of right now, I'm filming this April 3rd, 2026. He's actually currently filming his 27th season of the challenge. The current season that's filming is season 42 of the challenge, meaning he has been on more than half of the challenge seasons. And you have to think about it too, because he wasn't on the challenge since the very first season. His first season of the challenge was season 13. So from season 13 to 42, he has been on 27 of those. That is insane. Lastly, I want to mention Queen Svetlana because after the season ended, she appeared in 1 season of the challenge, The Duel, the same one I just talked about, Bananas being eliminated first. Svetlana, on the other hand, will make it all the way to the end of the challenge, coming in 2nd place, and she was so iconic that season that people 20 years later are still begging this girl to go on the challenge. Like, no one really knows what's going on with her today. Like, I don't think she has social media or anything, but people are always begging for Svetlana to come back, and I agree, she's queen. We need her back. The 18th season, Denver, premiered on November 22nd, 2006, airing 28 episodes that were filmed over 4 months. This season tied Las Vegas for the most episodes in 1 season. This season's cast consists of Alex, a 22-year-old from Texas, Brooke, a 24-year-old from Tennessee, Coley, a 22-year-old from New York, Davis, a 23-year-old from Georgia, Jen, a 22-year-old from California, Steven, a 22-year-old from California, and Tyree, a 23-year-old from Nebraska. This season's mandatory job had the cast working for Outward Bound, participating in wilderness courses, and later guiding teams from New Orleans displaced by Hurricane Katrina and hiking treks. This season is low-key personal for me because I have a vivid memory of watching this season of The Real World or watching a random episode of this season in a hotel room with my mom, and Davis, a gay guy on the show, was making out with a guy in one of the episodes, and my mom told me that I could no longer watch The Real World because of that. So every season of The Real World I watched after this up until I was, of age or old enough to talk back to my mom a little bit and be like, girl, I'm gonna watch the show. Every season after this I had to kind of watch in secret because they did not want me to see gay shit. Something similar like this happened to Bad Girls Club, which Bad Girls Club also produced by the same people who produced The Real World. Also, I want to do a video similar to this on Bad Girls Club. Ooh, I feel like I should have did that video first. Anyway, something similar like that happened while I was watching Bad Girls Club. Like 2 girls were making out. My mom was like, you can't watch that gay shit. So Yeah. Anyway, I am more familiar with the show as I did watch it live, but I also rewatched this season a few years ago, and it was insane. The biggest drama, in my opinion, is a fight between Davis and Tyree in episode 4. Don't remember exactly what they were fighting about, but at some point during the fight, Davis gets on the phone with, I believe, his boyfriend back home, and he tells him like what's going on in the fight, and he calls Tyree a nigga.
I'm going home tomorrow because some nigga wants to kill me for going to the really. I'm really sorry.
I just thought of the clip of Viola Davis from that Obama movie when she's like, "You're a coon. You're a nigga."
You're a coon. You're a nigga.
I actually hate saying the N-word in my videos because I don't want people to think, I don't know if it's just me, like, it's almost like how I don't like saying the N-word around white people because I don't want them to think that they can say it to me. It's almost like I don't want to say it in my videos because I don't want nobody in the comments saying my nigga or whatever. And I don't know if you're white, black, whatever. So from now on, I'm just gonna say the N-word because I don't want nobody in my comments being like, yeah, nigga, this was a good video. And I'm like, who are you? But yeah, Davis calls Tyree an N-word on the phone with his boyfriend. Tyree doesn't hear it, but Steven hears it, who's another black guy in the cast, which is kind of crazy that they had 2 black men on the cast at the same time. Had that ever happened before? No, I don't think they've ever had 2 black men on the cast at the same time. Like, they've always had 1 black man and 1 black woman, but 2 black men on one season is kind of crazy. But yeah, Steven hears Davis called Tyree an N-word, and he's pissed off because, bro, he's black too. He's like, I know you just ain't call him a nigga. Okay, I said I wasn't gonna say it. I know you just didn't call him the N-word. And Steven already wasn't all that fond of Davis for a stupid reason because Steven is a devout Christian and Davis is gay, and Davis talks to him and he's like, you know, I'm also a Christian. I also believe in God and all that stuff. And Steven's like, I don't understand why, because you're gay. It's like, girl, ain't no love like Christian hate, or ain't no hate like Christian love, something like that.
I think it's wrong that you're gay. What if I said I think it's wrong that you're black?
But yeah, he already really didn't like Davis, so the fact that Davis called him an N-word didn't really make it any better. However, the next day or a few days later, they all sit and talk it out, and Tyree forgives him, so does Steven, which they are so much better than me. I don't know if it's because this was 2006, but in 2026, I'm not having no white man, woman, no non-black person of color calling me an N-word, and we're gonna be cool. If I was Steven or Tyree, he would have to go home. I'm sorry, like, I could not live in the same house with you and look at your face every day and remember that you called me the N-word. Granted, Tyree didn't hear it, but Steven heard it. And I just couldn't, like, I'm just sitting here thinking, what if one of my white coworkers, which I have a lot of white coworkers, if one of them called me an N-word, they gotta get fired. Like, I'm not gonna be able to sit and work with you every day without me either cussing you out or stealing off on you. Like, you gotta go. Tyree also deals with another microaggression from Brooke after Brooke describes an area of Denver she was walking around as ghetto, which I don't know if white people understand the significance of the term ghetto and how you use it. So, you know what? I'm not getting into that today. There was also some relationship drama between Alex and Coley and Jen. For some reason, Coley and Jen both really liked Alex. I guess he just had that swag, I don't know, or he had that big D. Alex and Coley make out in one of the early episodes, but then Alex feels like Coley is getting too attached, so he backs off a little bit, and then he ends up hooking up with Jen. Jen and Coley are really good friends, so they sit and talk about it, and they're like, girl, we're not gonna let no dick get in between our friendship. So they remain friends. However, the other woman in the group, Brooke, feels left out by Coley and Jen. Coley and Jen are this dynamic duo, and Brooke is kind of on the outside looking in. Brooke does get along with Davis, maybe a little too well, because even though Davis is gay, Davis and Brooke flirt a lot, and Brooke's like, you know, I don't really want to hook up with you. Like, it's fun flirting, but hooking up may take things too far. You know, we're really good friends. And Davis like, girl, I don't give a fuck. I want to hook up. To the point where when his boyfriend comes to visit, he suggests to his boyfriend that they have a threesome. Messy. So while I was doing, you know, the editing to this show, looking up clips, things of that nature, I come across a video of Mr. Davis denouncing his gay identity. Yes, you heard it here first. He is not gay no more. He has been delivered. He don't like men's no more. And this is like recent, like in the past couple years. There's like a video of him doing a sermon somewhere in Hawaii where he talks about, being on a reality TV show 20 years ago and that he was living the gay lifestyle and blah, blah, blah. And now he's not. And I just thought that was really funny. But honestly, I mean, he could be bisexual because on the show, he was very much attracted to Brooke and wanted to hook up with her. So, like, if you want to be bi, be bi. We love bi king. I talk about this all the time on my channel. Bi men get such a bad rep in both straight and gay communities, but I love bi men. If I could be bi, I would be bi. Honestly, I might be. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I just wanted to talk about Davis not being gay no more because I think it's funny. Anyway, back to Coley, Jen, and Brooke. Once again, Brooke on the outside looking in, Coley and Jen besties. They have a lot of issues with each other, which reaches a fever pitch when Jen and Brooke get into it over transportation plans. Like, I believe it was like Alex, Jen, and I think either Alex's friend or Coley's boyfriend. I can't remember who the random visiting guy was, but they were talking about, the cars that they shared, who's going to drive what. One of the cars was a stick shift, and they were asking about who can drive stick. Jen felt some type of way about Brooke's response, thinking it was bitchy and bratty, which sends Brooke off the ledge, leading to like one of my favorite reality TV moments ever when Brooke goes off. Like, she yells at this girl. Honestly, I would be so afraid to live in the house with Brooke after that because I would think she's gonna murder me.
You ever speak to me like that again, you will be sorry. Do you hear me? Don't you dare talk to me like that ever again.
All right, I've talked about this season long enough. I could talk about more because I remember Tyree and Jen getting into it on a party bus because of God knows what, but Jen is even more hyped because she says that Tyree reminds her of her ex. This season is actually really good. I definitely suggest watching The Real World Denver. The 19th season, Sydney, premiered on August 8th, 2007, and they aired 24 30-minute episodes that were filmed over 3 months. This season is the third season following London in season 4, in Paris in season 13, the fully filmed outside the United States. The original cast consists of Kahutta, a 23-year-old from Georgia, Dunbar, a 22-year-old from Mississippi, Isaac, a 21-year-old from Ohio, Kellyanne, a 20-year-old from Texas, Parisa, a 21-year-old from New York, Siobhan, a 24-year-old from California, and Trisha, a 19-year-old from California. This season's mandatory job had the cast work for Contiki Tours, a vacation travel package planning company, where they prepared a Sydney tour package. This is the first season since San Diego to have a replacement come in, as 2 cast members left during filming. The first to leave was Siobhan, who would become infamous on The Challenge for bursting her breast implant. It's not funny, but it kind of is.
5 more minutes, Siobhan.
I need an x-ray on my fucking boob. Like, I'm not kidding. It's like burning. Like, I think I popped my fucking implant.
But yeah, this season she comes in. She had just ended her engagement with her boyfriend, but they reconciled throughout the season, and she like really misses him and wants to go back home to him, so she does. She ends up being replaced in the following episode by Ashley, a 19-year-old from California. The second person to leave the house, well, be removed, is Trisha. Trisha and Parisa did not get along at all during this season. If I remember correctly, I don't think really anybody on the cast got along with Parisa. I don't remember why. I have not rewatched Sydney in a minute. It's kind of one of those lost seasons as well. You can't stream it on Paramount Plus, but if you're a Jack Sparrow, you might be able to find it. But yeah, they get into an argument over the phone, which leads to Trisha pushing Parisa down, making her fall over. And Parisa has the one and only vote to send Trisha home. She has the opportunity to let her stay, or she can tell her to leave. A lot of the cast feels like Trisha should stay. Trisha does apologize. Parisa doesn't think it's genuine, and a lot of the cast feel like Parisa would be petty if she sent her home. With the 2 girls in the house, Kellyanne and Ashley, telling us like, hey, if Parisa sends Trisha home,
we're gonna make her life a living hell.
And guess what? Parisa sends her home.
You're sending me home because I'm the one who speaks what everyone else thinks that you're worth, and you're nothing.
Enjoy your flight. Take care.
Like I said, they were beefing all season, so it doesn't surprise me. I probably would too, because honestly, I'm kind of petty. So before we get into season 20, we must discuss the Real World Awards Bash. This was a special that aired shortly before the premiere of season 20, which was to celebrate 20 seasons of The Real World. It brought a whole bunch of former Real World cast members together. It was like a huge party, but it was also like an award show. It was very messy, but also very iconic. There are a bunch of random awards being handed out during the special, and I am going to list them off right now. Hottest male, Bananas from Key West, which is insane. Insane. If you ask me up until this point who was the hottest guy to ever be on The Real World, I'm giving you CT, because CT back then, whew, fine. Alton, fine. I'm trying to think of other guys. Those are like the only two I can think of off the top of my head who I would consider the hottest guy up until season 20. I don't remember how they determined the winners of these awards, but as you can see from the winners, they were very like recent winners. Like it was definitely a lot of recency bias when it comes to these awards, because Bananas from Key West hottest male is crazy. I'm sorry. Before she leaves though, she accuses Steven of being gay, and him being unsure about himself is why he's always angry. In retaliation, he takes Irene's stuffed dog that he stole earlier in the season and throws it into the water. He then stops Irene's taxi, opens the door, and slaps her. In 2008 at the Real World Awards Bash, he would come out as gay. Actually, I don't know if he came out before the Awards Bash, but he does show up to the Awards Bash with a husband.
I'm getting ready to hitch it, and it's actually with my partner, and he's a really great guy, and very much in love and very proud of his achievements, and looking forward to achieving a lot together.
The 20th season, Hollywood, premiered on April 16, 2008. We are now truly in the modern time, as this season consisted of 13 one-hour episodes. Yup, we up to an hour in this bitch. This season was also the second season to return to a city, if you remember. Season 2 took place in Los Angeles, and this season is called Hollywood. However, obviously, Hollywood is a district of Los Angeles. To go with the Hollywood theme, everybody on the cast was an aspiring something coming to Hollywood to try to pursue that dream. Also, this season was the first season to have a cast member be picked online, which was a mess, but we'll get into that. The original cast consisted of Brianna, a 20-year-old from Pennsylvania who was an aspiring singer, Dave, a 22-year-old from Pennsylvania, an aspiring comedian, Greg, a 20-year-old from Florida. He is our cast member who was voted online, and he is already kind of a practicing model, but I guess aspiring to be a bigger model. Joey, a 24-year-old from Illinois, an aspiring actor. Kimberly, a 24-year-old from South Carolina, an aspiring host. Sarah, a 21-year-old from Arizona, an aspiring broadcast journalist. And Will, a 24-year-old from Michigan, an aspiring DJ. This season's job had them taking improv comedy classes and creating an improv group where they would perform together. This is the first season since the jobs became mandatory in season 10, where a cast member was fired and therefore removed from the show, that being Greg. Now, Greg, like I said, was the cast member that was picked by an online poll, mostly because he was good looking, I guess, and I think he already had a good social media following back then. Social media following as in like MySpace, Facebook, because this was 2008. Twitter was a thing. I believe Twitter came out in 2006, but it wasn't as big as it is today, and Instagram was a ways away. But yeah, Greg was picked by the online audience. However, as soon as we saw him on the show, he was becoming very quickly hated by the same people who voted him in, as well as very hated in the house. He was just very stuck up, didn't really want to interact with the cast, didn't really care to be there, and he didn't want to do the improv classes, so he would not show up. And after missing too many, he ended up getting fired, and he had to chuck the deuces. We also had a second person leave the house as well, being Joey. Joey struggled with alcoholism, which causes him to act out a lot. In episode 4, he leaves to enter a 30-day treatment facility. He returns in episode 8. However, fearing he will relapse, he voluntarily moves out the house in episode 9. He comes back for the finale to watch the cast do their final performance at the Improv Club, and after the reunion, he has stated he was 10 months sober. In 2010, he will appear on VH1 Celebrity Rehab with Dr. Drew, which I did a whole video on the celeb reality era of VH1, so check that out if you haven't seen it. He was there for treatment for addictions to alcohol, cocaine, ecstasy, methamphetamines, and steroids. Sadly, on August 17, 2012, Joey passed away at the age of 29 of an opiate intoxication, becoming the third Real Worlder to pass away, following Pedro from San Francisco and Frankie from San Diego. In episode 10, we got 2 replacements to replace Greg and Joey: Brittany, a 22-year-old aspiring model from Arizona, and Nick, a 23-year-old aspiring model and TV host from New York. One moment from from the season that does live rent-free in my head is a fight that happens between Kimberly and Brianna. Brianna is a black girl. I do not remember if she's biracial or not, but she does identify as black. And during one of their arguments, Kimberly tells her,
"Let's not get ghetto."
Kimberly, I believe, is from South Carolina, specifically Columbia, South Carolina. And like I said, I'm from Augusta, Georgia. Columbia is like an hour away from Augusta. South Carolina's country as hell and racist as hell. So yeah, she's like, calm down, let's not get ghetto. And Brianna's like, girl, what the fuck you talking about? Ghetto. Let me call me ghetto. I just talked about this with Brooke. Like, watch how you use that ghetto word. And at one point during the fight, Brianna says, watch where you sleeping tonight, ho. And I think about that all the time.
Calm down. Let's not get ghetto. Calm down. What do you mean? What do you mean get ghetto?
When you use the term ghetto referring to urban black people, you know what I'm saying? It offends me.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about this season. The 21st season, Brooklyn, premiered on January 7th, 2009, consisting of 13 one-hour episodes. I did say we were in the modern times, starting with last season when they extended the episode run times to 1 hour. However, we are now truly in the modern era because this is the first season to be filmed and broadcast in HD. I don't know if you guys remember the era of TV when shows was going from standard definition to high definition, but it was insane. Like, it was so cool to see like these shows in clearer formats. And I'll never forget how Big Brother was so late to the game. Big Brother, one of my favorite shows of all time, was so late to converting from standard definition to HD. And I'm almost positive it's because Big Brother has so many cameras in the house that upgrading them all either took a lot of time or cost a lot of money. But I'm pretty sure the first Big Brother season to be in HD was Big Brother 16. And that premiered in 2014. This was 2009, The Real World Brooklyn, and it was the first HD season. So very cool. We are in the modern era. Following Hollywood, which focused on the district of Hollywood in LA, this season's location focuses on the borough of Brooklyn, but it's the third season of film in New York, following season 1 and season 10. This season is also the first season to have 8 initial cast members. It was always really fun in like the premiere episode because the cast will always wonder like, what will the gender balance be? Would it be 4 women, 3 men, or 3 men, 4 women? Now it is equal, which is kind of insane considering the season does kind of turn into like a battle of the sexes type season, but we'll talk about that in a second. The cast consists of Bea, a 21-year-old from Utah, Chet, a 23-year-old from Utah, Devin, a 20-year-old from Missouri, JD, a 22-year-old from Florida, Caitlin, a 24-year-old from Florida, Ryan, a 23-year-old from Pennsylvania, Sarah, a 22-year-old from California, and Scott, a 23-year-old from New Hampshire. This season is also the first season to do away with the mandatory jobs, the first time since season 3 to not have them do mandatory jobs, and allowed them to pursue their own interests. One of the biggest storylines this season was the inclusion of the first ever transgender cast member, Caitlin. She began living as a woman when she was 17, and shortly before moving into the real world house, she had her gender reassignment surgery. Ryan kind of was the first to immediately clock Caitlin, but she doesn't really fully come out to anyone but JD in the very first episode because JD is gay, and you know, we need to have that gay trans solidarity, even though it doesn't last that long, unfortunately. Caitlin then tells Sarah and Bea in episode 2, and they take it very well. In episode 6, the house is uncomfortable with Caitlin walking around the house in her underwear. The men are uncomfy more so because Ryan, who I mentioned kind of clocked her earlier in the season, has been going around telling everyone that Caitlin is a man. Ryan and Chet eavesdrop on Caitlin in the confessional talking about her being trans, but they don't tell her that they know. She then comes out to Devin, but is still worried about telling Ryan as she feels that he won't be accepting. Meanwhile, Ryan, as well as the other guys, are kind of curious as to why she hasn't said anything yet. But if you watch the season, they do make a lot of like very tone-deaf comments behind her back, and you have to remember the time, you guys. It is 2009. You gotta remember the times. I kept watching and I'm like, I gotta remember this was 17, 18 years ago. They were making a lot of crazy comments, but overall, like, they didn't necessarily seem to have an issue with her being trans. Like I said, they made their slick comments and pretty ignorant comments, but I think overall they were just kind of upset that she wasn't being honest with them because they were all friends and they just felt like she wasn't being honest. As I mentioned when I was talking about JD and the gay trans solidarity being there, and it wasn't there because JD ends up outing Caitlin to Ryan, telling him, like officially telling him that yes, Caitlin is trans, which is messed up because, you know, you don't out anybody, and as a gay man, you should know that.
Oh my god! She cut off her wiener.
She went to Thailand.
Oh my god, she did it in Thailand?
That's what she went.
Oh,
this didn't come from me, okay?
After JD tells Ryan about this, he finally is like, you know what, I'm just gonna approach her and ask her. So he does so, and she's like, yeah, I'm trans. And they have a pretty long conversation about it, and I think it's a very important conversation to watch. Like I said, even though like Ryan makes a lot of like ignorant comments, like just like ignorant little quips that he thinks is funny, obviously Caitlyn kind of goes with it. I mean, it's just like you have to like just keep remembering it's 2009. Almost positive it was 2008 when this season filmed. But I feel like overall he was just like curious, because he asked a lot of questions. He asked like about her surgery. He asked her like, when did you decide to do this? Like, you know, what was your thought process? Like, when did you realize that you wanted to live as a woman? And like, he was just asking a lot of questions, and Caitlyn was being open and honest and fully explaining everything. And like, you can just see that he was just curious at the end of the day. Like, it wasn't necessarily hate, it's just new to him. It was new to a lot of people. It was 2009, and she was the most worried about Ryan and telling him, when I feel like overall he was definitely the most open and accepting versus the other two straight guys in the house, Chet and Scott.
My head is just rattled. It's a lot for me to take in. I don't know even myself where I stand. My view of Caitlyn really has not changed from this, because since she walked in the door and I heard that voice, I wasn't surprised at all.
And then JD was a disappointment. I don't like JD. And like I said, this season would turn into like a battle of the sexes type season with the guys and the girls. They would play a lot of pranks on each other, and then it would get serious. I remember there was an argument where JD like breaks a table. I cannot stand JD. Oh, you know, I'm always rooting for everybody black and everybody gay. This is the first time where I'm not rooting for everybody gay because he was annoying. Anyways, I feel like overall Brooklyn is a very good season to watch. I feel like everyone should watch it. Keep in mind, like I said, the time that the show was aired and when it filmed and all that stuff, because they say a lot of crazy stuff. However, I think it's a very important season to watch, and this would be the only time a trans person will ever appear on The Real World. What if I told y'all this is being filmed like a week after the last clip? So if you notice anything looking different, okay, I'm not even gonna mention it. The 22nd season, Cancun, premiered on June 24th, 2009, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 3 months. This is the 4th and final season to ever fully film outside of the United States or any US territories, following London in season 4, Paris in season 13, and Sydney in season 19. Continuing on with what Brooklyn started, the cast consisted of 8 roommates. Aya, a 22-year-old from California, Brane, a 21-year-old from Pennsylvania, CJ, a 24-year-old from Florida, Derek, a 21-year-old from Arizona, Emily, a 21-year-old from Massachusetts, Jasmine, a 22-year-old from Texas, Joey, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts, and Janae, a 20-year-old from Arizona. This is also the first season since Seattle to have 2 people in the house know each other prior to the show, as Janae and Derek used to be co-workers at a bar back in Arizona. This season also brings back the mandatory jobs, as they all work for Student City. Due to Cancun being like a big party place, this season had a lot of partying and a lot of hooking up. There really wasn't anything crazy that happened. I mean, we did have Aya, who, trigger warning, struggled with drug use and self-mutilation prior to the show. And in episode 5, her self-mutilation actually comes up. I don't remember if she actually did it in the house. You know, all throughout this video, I've been like inserting like little text to show if I need to correct anything, so I'll put that on the screen if I need to. But yeah, I believe either she did it in the house or it got brought up in conversation. We have to talk about Janae, because this girl was actually a reality star prior to being on The Real World. Kinda, sorta. In 2002, at just 13 years old, Janae appeared on the kids' reality TV show Endurance, which aired on Discovery Kids. Endurance was pretty much a reality game competition show similar to like Survivor. They would pair up into guy-girl duos and compete in challenges. Each week, duos would be sent home via elimination challenges, and the last duo standing wins. The show ran for 6 seasons from 2002 to 2008. Janae competed in the very first season, and she actually won, so Homegirl was winning big at just 13 years old. She would also end up winning a Future Challenge spinoff twice, but once again, we'll talk about that in the challenge video. Alright, I fucked up on this season because I did not talk about 2 big storylines. Number 1, Joey actually gets sent home because he gets fired from his job after missing too many shifts. So I believe that happens in like episode 8 or 9. Then also Brane gets removed from the hotel that they're living in because he threw a fire extinguisher off the balcony, and he gets removed from the hotel, but he gets provided alternative housing from the job that they work at, Student City. So he's allowed to stay on the show, but he just does not live with them anymore. That's kind of weird. I would have kicked him off too, but whatever. The 23rd season DC premiered on December 30th, 2009, consisting of 14 one-hour episodes filmed over 3 months. With this season premiering just 2 days before the end of 2009, this made it so that there was 3 seasons that premiered in 1 calendar year, which was the first and only time this ever happened, which is actually kind of insane. Brooklyn premiered in January, Cancun premiered in June, and then DC premiered in December, all in 2009. That is wild. This season's cast consisted of Andrew, a 21-year-old from Colorado, Ashley, a 22-year-old from Texas, Callie, a 21-year-old from Texas, Emily, a 20-year-old from Missouri, Erica, a 21-year-old from Illinois, Josh, a 23-year-old from Pennsylvania, Mike, a 22-year-old from Colorado, and Ty, a 22-year-old from Maryland. Similar to Brooklyn, this season had no mandatory job and they were able to pursue their own interests. So to keep it 100 with y'all, DC is like one of my least favorite seasons, probably my least favorite season. I thought it was a universal consensus that DC was one of the most boring seasons, but I just looked up a ranking real world seasons article and Entertainment Weekly ranked it as number 21 of 33. Like, they have skeletons behind it. Season 30, they have Cancun behind it, they have Hollywood behind DC, which is insane, they have New Orleans 2010 behind it, like they have Denver at number 29 of 33, but they have DC that high. That's insane to me. DC was a boring season. There's like really no truly memorable moment from that season in my opinion. The only thing that comes to mind when I think of DC is one, Emily becomes kind of like a big challenge person. And then I had a crush on Josh. I used to think Josh was so hot. I mean, I still do, watching clips from the show. That was just my type back then. Kind of still my type now, sue me. Kind of crazy that I just mentioned that they had New Orleans ranked lower than DC when New Orleans is the next season. The 24th season will return to New Orleans, premiering on June 30th, 2010, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 4 months. This is the second season to film in New Orleans following season 9 10 years prior. This season's cast consists of Ashley, a 23-year-old from New Jersey, Eric, a 24-year-old from Virginia, Jimmy, a 21-year-old from Mississippi, Mackenzie, a 21-year-old from Florida, Preston, a 22-year-old from Michigan, Knight, a 23-year-old from Wisconsin, Ryan, a 21-year-old from Arizona, and Sahar, a 21-year-old from Michigan. This cast did not have a group assignment or job, but they would volunteer at various places around New Orleans, including building homes with Habitat for Humanity. The biggest storyline this season was that of Ryan. No one liked Ryan in the house. He got into it with pretty much everybody, and his biggest beef this season was with Preston. They got into multiple disagreements, and while out one night, Ryan actually calls Preston the F slur, which obviously pisses Preston off. I was 15 years old when watching this show, and even watching some of the episodes back to do this video, I still kind of think of Ryan's beef with Preston as like a projection, because he talked about on the show how people would perceive him as gay just because of the way he dressed. He also, I believe, worked as a hairstylist, so he always was thought to be gay, but he claims he wasn't. And I don't know what Ryan is up to today, but I even thought, like, as a 15-year-old, and even kind of watching now, like, girl, maybe you wouldn't be as angry if you could be yourself. But, you know, I don't want to, you know, assume anything about anybody. We don't want to, you know, put labels on people who don't prescribe to those labels. You know what they say when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. So, I don't know. But yeah, Ryan, Preston did not get along, and it reached a fever pitch to the point where the police had to be involved. There was a moment in the season where Preston took Ryan's toothbrush, peed on it, and used it to clean the toilet. And apparently Ryan didn't find out that this happened to his toothbrush until after he had been using it for about 2 weeks, which is insane. Ryan then took Preston's cigarettes, opened them, took them out the pack, and rubbed it against his anal cavity. Insane. We went from, you know, just arguing, and now we're doing biological warfare with urine and anal cavities. Like, who knows? I'm sure Ryan wasn't wiping properly. Like, his dingleberries could have gotten on those cigarettes. Like I said, the police had to be called. It's all insane. Look that up. This video is already long as hell. Look it up. Use Google, not ChatGPT. Fed up with Ryan's antics, the house unanimously voted for him to leave the house, and he does so in episode 10, returning a couple episodes later to participate in a group photo shoot promoting the show. A big romance from the season came between Jimmy and Knight. Jimmy was originally hesitant to date Knight, as she said on the show that she had only dated black men. But, you know, they got along, they liked each other, and they dated, and I believe they dated for a while after the show, but they eventually broke up. Sadly, Knight will become the 4th real-worlder to pass away after he died on November 27, 2014 at the age of 28 from acute mixed drug and alcohol intoxication. The 25th season returns to Las Vegas, premiering on March 9th, 2011, consisting of 13 episodes filming over 2 months. As y'all may have noticed, the filming time for these seasons have gone down. Now they're more like 2-3 months when they used to be 5-6 months. I don't know if the budget was getting lower, which I kind of feel like it was, because they were also returning to cities a lot more. There were still a lot of cities that they could have done. I always wondered why they never really did more international seasons, but at this point, the Real World was kind of declining when it came to viewership. The Challenge was still doing pretty well. Road Rules had been dead for a minute, so I don't know, but yeah, I just peeped that when I was doing my research. I'm like, damn, they only filmed for 2 months. This is the second season to film in Las Vegas since season 12, 9 years prior. This is also the first time since season 20 where the cast consisted of 7 roommates. The original cast consisted of Adam, a 22-year-old from Maine, Dustin, a 24-year-old from Louisiana, Heather, a 21-year-old from New Jersey, Leroy, a 25-year-old from Michigan, Michael, a 23-year-old from Virginia, Nani, a 21-year-old from New York, and Naomi, a 22-year-old from New York. The group job returns this season with the cast volunteering as interns for a charity called the Athlete Recovery Fund. When I said the cast, I did say original cast because we did have some replacements this season. Adam follows Ryan from last season as being like a really bad roommate. He doesn't really get along with anyone. He has like a short romance with Nani before he kind of goes out of control, and Nani's like, yeah, I need to back up. He even gets into it with Leroy, which, if you know Leroy, he becomes a big challenge figure. He becomes like one of the most likable people on the show, like, of all time. He doesn't really get into it with anybody, but he actually does get into some beef with Adam, like to the point where he's like yelling, which doesn't really happen. If you piss off Leroy, you know you're doing too much, because it takes a lot for that man to actually raise his voice. Like, literally in a future challenge, he gets called a black... What did she call him? A black pussy?
You're a black mother pussy.
I have no idea why my skin color is being brought into this.
And he doesn't. He's like, girl, you're gonna regret this in the morning. You're drunk as hell. I know you just called me a black pussy. I'm not even mad. I'm like, damn, like even that couldn't get him heated. Adam has a big drinking problem, which leads to him being removed by the hotel, as he is causing many issues in the hotel due to his drinking. He will be replaced by Cook, a 21-year-old from Maryland. The biggest storyline this season is that of Mr. Dustin Zito. Dustin is a handsome guy from a small town who is immediately attracted to Heather, and they begin a little fling. However, he has a secret. A few years prior to him being on the show, Dustin worked for a gay porn website called Frat Pad. I am not ashamed to say that I have seen the clips. He talks about it on the show, saying that he's not gay and that he only did it to make a living, which, if you know the term gay for pay, that's pretty much what he's saying that he was doing. He hides this information from the house, but it comes out, no pun intended, in episode 8. I believe Heather finds out from someone back home, if I'm not mistaken. If I can find the clip, I'll put it in. Heather is shook by the news, and Dustin tells her that he was 18 and directionless, and emphasizes that he never had intercourse with any of the guys, but they would grind on each other, kiss, give, and receive BJs, but it was never penetration. The rest of the cast is upset that they kept this from him and calls him hypocritical, as he made some slick comments about gay people during the season. This revelation leads to Heather and Dustin breaking up, but by the finale of the season, they reconcile and they begin dating. The 26th season returns to San Diego, premiering on September 28th, 2011, and consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 3 months. This is the 3rd straight season to repeat a city, with San Diego appearing back in season 14. Once again, this cast goes back down to 7 cast members, which include Alex, a 21-year-old from California, Ashley, a 24-year-old from New York, Frank, a 22-year-old from New York, Nate, a 22-year-old from Missouri, Priscilla, a 19-year-old from California, Sam, a 21-year-old from Virginia, and Zach, a 23-year-old from Michigan. For this cast group job, they worked at the House of Blues. This season is a season that I never watched, as after the last season, Las Vegas, I kind of took a break from the real world. Around this time, I was 16, 17 years old. I was still in high school. I also had a job back then, so I honestly just really didn't have time to watch a lot of TV. But from what I know about this season, Frank had a huge presence, negative for the most part. He got into it with a lot of people. I believe he got into it a lot with Zach. And a lot of this would come up in their first challenge appearance on Battle of Seasons in 2012, which I keep bringing up this challenge video. I apologize, but I'm so excited to do it. I'm going to try to get it up as quickly as I can after this one. But yeah, overall, I don't really know much about the season. If you know a lot about this season, leave your favorite moments in the comments down below. The 27th season, St. Thomas, premiered on June 27th, 2012, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 2 months. This is the first season to ever be filmed in the Caribbean, and the second to be filmed fully outside the lower 48, following Hawaii back in season 8. The 7 roommates this season consisted of Brandon, a 22-year-old from Massachusetts, Swift, a 22-year-old from New Jersey, Latoya, a 22-year-old from Virginia, Laura, a 22-year-old from Nebraska, Marie, a 23-year-old from New York, Rob, a 21-year-old from Pennsylvania, and Trey, a 22-year-old from Maryland. For this season's job, they worked at the Coral World Try to say this really fast. Coral World Ocean Park. Coral World Ocean Park. Coral World Ocean Park. Wow. That's a tongue twister. As I mentioned during last season, I kind of took a break from the real world, so this is once again a season that I've never seen. I think I might have seen 1 or 2 episodes. But from what I know about this season, the biggest storyline was that of Brandon. I believe he struggled with drug abuse prior to him being on the show, but he had been sober for a while. But while on the show, he somehow got access to drugs and he began using again. And when that was discovered, he actually was removed from the show. The 28th season, Portland, premiered on March 27, 2013, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over nearly 3 months. The original cast consisted of 7 human roommates and 1 canine roommate. Anastasia, a 22-year-old from Michigan, Avery, a 21-year-old from Arizona, Jessica, a 21-year-old from North Carolina, Johnny, a 21-year-old from Massachusetts, Joy, a 21-year-old from Washington, Jordan, a 21-year-old from Oklahoma, Marlon, a 24-year-old from Texas, and Daisy, Avery's dog, a 1-year-old Chihuahua Jack Terrier mix. This is the first and only time that a dog is listed as a cast member on a season of The Real World, but I believe back on Road Rules, on the Extreme season, there was a dog on the cast, so it wasn't new for, MTV to do this. This season didn't have a mandatory group job, but the cast had pre-approved local places they could work at to earn extra money. Some would work at a local pizzeria and bar, and some worked at a yogurt shop. Portland was my return to watching The Real World, and it was all because of one person. Hurricane Naya. You might be wondering, who is Naya? Like, I just went over the cast, I didn't mention a Naya, so who the fuck is Naya? She was actually a replacement, but if you were around before the season aired, the way they promoted this season, you would have thought that Naya was a part of the original cast because nearly every promotion was about Naya. She had like her own individual, like, mini commercial all about her.
4 girls, 3 guys, 1 dog, and only 1 Naya.
The only reason I will
come on, bro.
But she wasn't even on the original cast. She doesn't officially come into the house until episode 4. Insane how much her impact had on the show. Naya ends up replacing Joy after she leaves the house in episode 3 due to her missing her boyfriend back home. Naya's earned the moniker of Hurricane Naya due to her gaff attitude about everything. She was very confrontational, she spoke her mind, and she just kind of did whatever the fuck she wanted. Coming into the house, she notices it's pretty much everyone minus Marlon versus Jessica, and she takes it upon herself to have Jessica's back, defending her against Jordan, Johnny, Avery, and Anastasia. Early in the season, what starts off as an attraction between Naya and Jordan turns into aggression, with Jordan making monkey noises at Naya during an argument with her, which pisses off Marlon, a fellow black person in the house, obviously. Naya would then confront Avery and Anastasia due to them kind of shutting Jessica out for no apparent reason. Jessica was a little annoying. I mean, she was this girl from a small town. She was kind of overly eager, but also kind of like a little judgy. She was kind of like,
I don't know if I want to do this.
But she was a nice girl. She just didn't really mesh well with Avery and Anastasia. Avery would be the most pissed at Naya after she locked her in the bathroom to confront her, which, I mean, she didn't lock her in the bathroom. They were out at a bar. I believe they actually were at the place that they all worked at. And Avery was in the bathroom. Naya and Jessica went in there. And Jessica took this time to talk to Avery about, why she kind of acts the way she does around her. And Naya was just kind of standing in front of the door, kind of like blocking the door. And Avery was like, can you move out the way? And she was like, no, I feel like y'all need to talk. And the talk doesn't really go well. Naya finally moves out the way, lets her out. And then Avery goes to Johnny, who they have been dating pretty much since like episode 2. But yeah, she goes to Johnny and is like, yeah, Naya locked me in the bathroom and we just got into it, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, girl, she did not lock you in there. But this pisses off Johnny, and Johnny starts yelling at Naya. They're going back and forth. This leads to Johnny pulling his pants down in front of the entire house, which I don't know why guys keep doing that, because that happened back in season 2 with David, but whatever. All this drama culminates towards the end of the season because you remember Avery's dog, Daisy. Y'all probably was like, girl, why are they talking about dogs on the cast? Like, it's a dog. Like, what the fuck? Like, who really gives a fuck about the dog? First of all, fuck you, because we love dogs around here. And secondly, Daisy is the reason for one of the biggest moments in the show's history. Daisy lives in the house with everyone, and even though it's Avery's dog, the cast, warms up to the dog. They all love the dog. They all help out with taking care of Daisy, taking her on walks, feeding her, things like that. One day, Naya goes into the confessional and goes to sit down, and she steps in a pile of Daisy's poop. She's obviously like thrown off by this, like, oh my god, I just stepped in poop with my bare feet. She goes to the bathroom, she like washes her feet off in the shower, and she like cleans up the specks of poop that she made when she was walking to the bathroom. But she left the initial pile of poop for Avery or Johnny to clean up. So when Johnny and Avery come home, Johnny goes to the confessional. I guess he used it himself. He notices the poop, and he's like, who left that there? And Niall's like, yeah, I stepped in it, and I had to like clean up all the poop I left throughout the house, try to get into the bathroom to clean it up. Like, that's you and Avery's dog. Like, y'all need to clean up after y'all's dog.
How many other people have stepped in Daisy's in the house? Zero. Zero.
It's your dog. You clean up the you look after your dog.
Then don't touch the dog.
And I won't.
I'm not 100% sure of the poop situation. I believe that they weren't too animate about picking up Daisy's poop when she did it in the house. Like, I don't think they did it immediately. Like, sometimes it would sit, which is probably why Naya was so irritated and didn't want to clean up after it when she stepped in it. Because it's like, bro, y'all don't clean up quickly after y'all's dog, and now I just had to step in it. I'm pissed off. But Naya gets into it with Avery and Johnny over the dog poop, and Avery is like, well, if you're not gonna clean up the dog poop, then leave Daisy alone. Don't touch her, don't pet her, don't pick her up. And Naya's like, girl, you're not gonna tell me what the fuck to do. Like, I'm gonna do whatever fuck I want. And this is Naya being a little instigator, because there were points like they're just chilling around the house and Naya go, Daisy, come here, Daisy. And Avery's like, bitch, I just told you not to fucking talk my dog. While in the bathroom doing her hair, Johnny decides to throw a drink onto Naya, which ends with her pounding on his head. Like, Marlon and Jordan break it up, but Naya isn't done. Naya grabs a blow dryer. I don't even use my blow dryer.
I don't even use my blow dryer.
Naya does, because she takes the blow dryer. She is waiting outside one of the rooms. I believe it's the half bath where Johnny went into. She's waiting outside of it. Like, soon as he step out, I'm wailing on him with this blow dryer. But Avery is standing next to her, and I don't know what Naya was thinking in this moment. I don't know if she just thought that Avery was waiting on her boyfriend to come out the bathroom so she can like make out with him after he just got pounded on his head. But Avery was tying her hair up like, girl, swing on my man if you want to, and we gonna have some problems. Johnny comes out the bathroom. Naya goes at him with that blow dryer. Avery like grabs her from behind, and they start fighting. It's crazy. They break it up. It's wild. And Naya still isn't done, because she's like, girl, you snuck me. I got you. So like, probably 15-20 minutes have passed. I actually don't know how long. On the show, it didn't seem like that long, but it could have been even longer. Avery's in the bathroom looking at herself in the mirror, doing whatever, her hair, I don't know. Naya comes up behind her. Naya, who played volleyball, I believe, in college, does like a volleyball serve or like a tennis serve. I don't know, but she knocks the shit out of the back of Avery's head, and they start fighting again. Naya literally turned this into Bad Girls Club, and I remember back then, there was a rumor going around that she auditioned for Bad Girls Club, but they put her on The Real World instead, which, if you don't know, the same people who produced The Real World is the same people who produce Bad Girls Club. So yeah, the rumor was that she auditioned for Bad Girls Club but got put on The Real World. I don't know how true that is, but this whole episode was Bad Girls Club because they were just fighting. After everyone splits up and cools down, they come back to decide whether Naya should have to stay or go. Mind you, this happens in the last episode. There's only like 2 or 3 days left of filming, so it's kind of insane that this is all happening like right before the show is over. But yeah, Johnny and Avery is like, either Naya goes or we go. Johnny, Avery, and Jordan vote for Naya to go, while Jessica, Marlon, and Anastasia vote for Naya to stay. Jessica votes for her to stay due to Naya's unwavering loyalty towards her. Marlon votes for Naya to stay, even though he does feel like she was doing way too much when it came to the fight. He was still really close to Naya. They're the 2 black people in the house, you know, we tend to stick together. So yeah, he votes for her to stay. And then as I mentioned, yes, Anastasia voted for Naya to stay, even though Anastasia was probably the closest to Avery this entire season. However, Anastasia does at some point during the season warm up to Naya, and they become pretty friendly. Not as close as Anastasia is to Avery, but they do become friendly. Anastasia votes for Nia to stay purely out of fear, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure she has a confessional where she's like, I don't want to be on Nia's bad side, so I'm voting for her to stay. And like I said, there was only 3 days of filming left, so like, girl, it's not that deep. So it ends up being a tie 3-3 vote, and since they couldn't come up with a clear decision, Johnny and Avery decide to move out of the house early, and they end up moving into a hotel. I just realized that I have not talked about any of the reunions for these seasons, which is kind of crazy because we're on season 28. But the reason why I bring up Portland's reunion is because it was hosted by my mother, Coral Smith, and my mother and my big sis Nia has some beef going on. Like, it was clear watching the reunion that Coral and Nia just was not gelling with one another. I'm pretty sure they got into it on Twitter around this time too.
To the person on this stage who tweeted, "No one's afraid of Coral. Who is she again?" I say, get ready because you're about to find out. Nia.
And it broke my heart because, like I said, Coral is my mother. She raised me. And Nia was big sis. Like, Nia followed me on Twitter like around the time this season aired because I was like being a fan. And I'm pretty sure she still follows me to this day, even though I don't use Twitter no more. But yeah, like, they were getting into it bad. And I was hoping that this would turn into a potential appearance on a challenge season from both Nia and Coral, but that never happened, sadly. This season was really good, and it was actually a swan song to the original format of the show, as every season after this will shake things up. The 29th season premiered on January 8th, 2014, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 2 months. This season changed the format of the show majorly. Firstly, the title of the season is The Real World Ex-Plosion, rather than the city it was filmed in. The season was filmed in San Francisco, the second season to do so following season 3. This season was also the first season to have more than 8 total cast members. The initial cast consisted of Ariel, a 22-year-old from California, Ashley, a 26-year-old from California, Corey, a 22-year-old from California, Jamie, a 22-year-old from Texas, Jay, a 26-year-old from New York, Jenny, a 23-year-old from California, and Thomas, a 21-year-old from Texas. About a month into filming, the cast was sent on a 2-day boat trip, and while they were away, 5 new roommates moved into the house, each of them being an ex of a current roommate, hence the title Ex-Plosion. Both the OG cast and the exes coming in didn't know about each other, with the exes believing that they were moving in to replace someone. The exes consisted of Ashley, a 26-year-old from California and Ariel's ex, Brian, a 26-year-old from Missouri and Jenny's ex, Haley, a 21-year-old from Texas and Thomas's ex, Jenna, a 20-year-old from New York and Jay's ex, and Lauren, a 23-year-old from New York and Corey's ex. Similar to last season, there are pre-approved places that the cast could work at if they so choose. Not everyone this season had an ex move in. As you can see, there were 7 original cast members, but only 5 exes moved in, and there's a reason for that. First reason is because one of the initial roommates, Ashley, actually was removed from the house prior to the exes moving in. Miss Ashley Mitchell will become more famous on the challenge as Millionaire Mitchell, but on this season of The Real World, she was a hot mess. She got into it with a lot of the cast members, including Corey, which during one of the arguments, she told Corey that her family could buy and sell his family, which he kind of noted the racist undertones to that statement, like, what do you mean, is it because I'm black? But yeah, she was constantly drinking, constantly drunk, constantly getting into fights, and she was removed from the house in episode 3. However, she lived in San Francisco, so she would pop up in later episodes, but she wasn't, you know, a cast member anymore. And second reason why there was only 5 exes was because Jamie was actually lucky that her ex declined to appear on the show. Apparently her ex is a man named Cameron, a guitarist for the band Asking Alexandra. He declined to come on the show due to commitments to his band and believing it wouldn't be good for either one of them if he came on. This season had a lot of relationship drama, which shouldn't be surprising given the theme. Before the exes came in, Corey was hooking up with Jenna and Thomas was hooking up with Jamie. Thomas and Jamie had actually officially started dating, and their relationship was tested once Haley, Thomas' ex, moved in. A love triangle formed with Jenny, Corey, and Brian, Jenny's ex. Speaking of Corey, Corey becomes a huge figure on MTV, appearing on a bunch of challenges. He ends up later appearing on Teen Mom once he starts dating Cheyenne from another MTV show when they meet on the challenge. Corey is fine. He's like one of the best looking guys on the show in my opinion. But yeah, there's a huge love triangle going on there. And Corey ends up losing this love triangle, not surprisingly, because Brian's a good looking guy too. But obviously as Jenny's ex, they have more of a history. They have kind of like a volatile relationship coming in. They get into a lot of arguments, but at the end of the day, apparently they really love each other, so Brian and Jenny get back together. Meanwhile, Corey's ex, Lauren, would actually move out shortly after moving in, after she discovered she was pregnant with someone else's baby. Crazy. That's actually insane, but it's even more insane that this isn't the last time someone moves out the house after finding out they're pregnant. More on that at 11. Haley would also leave the house a few episodes before the finale after getting into multiple arguments and even getting physical with her ex Thomas. This season would change the course of the show forever. As I mentioned in the intro, which was hours ago at this point, one of the biggest things in the earlier seasons was pretending that the cameras was not there, kind of like not speaking about production, just fully being immersed in, the show. However, starting with the season, to have more of a realistic feel or a more immersive feel, the production side of the show would be way more prominent in the show. Like, you would see the cameramen in shots, you would see the cast interacting with the cameramen, you would see the cast interacting with production. Like, they had a house phone where they can talk directly to production. You would see that a lot. In the confessionals, you would hear like production asking them the questions and they would answer. As before, they would just like have the cast members talk without production being heard. And this is kind of something that you see a lot more in reality TV now. The Real World did pioneer the confessional format with the cast talking directly to the camera, but I don't believe they were the first to have like the production asking them the questions included in the confessionals. I don't remember if they were the first to do that, but I do know that that becomes a huge thing in reality TV. You see a lot more of that now. Lastly, and the most upsetting in my opinion, is that they did away with the classic intros. As you see when I introduced the cast, there wasn't like a proper like shot of them with their name. They got rid of the "this is a true story of 7 strangers picked to live in a house." They got rid of all of that and they have this generic ass, basic ass intro that's gonna continue on for the rest of the show. So that's very upsetting. The 30th season, Skeletons, premiered on December 16, 2014, consisting of 14 one-hour episodes filmed over 2.5 months. Filming took place in Chicago, the second season to do so, following season 11. The subtitle of the season, Skeletons, refers to the fact that the cast had to face their skeletons hiding in the closet. Did I just make that up? If I did, I ate that. I don't know if that was an official slogan, but I just ate that. The cast consists of Bruno, a 24-year-old from Rhode Island, Jason, a 24-year-old from North Carolina, Madison, a 23-year-old from Texas, Nicole, a 23-year-old from New York, Sylvia, a 25-year-old from Missouri, Tony, a 25-year-old from Louisiana, and Violetta, a 23-year-old from Florida. Throughout the season, other people would move in for a week, referred to as skeletons. These people have past history with the initial cast, whether it be an ex, a former friend, a father that they don't really talk to. It kind of ranges. Unlike the exes last season, the people coming in as the skeletons aren't listed as official cast members, as they're only living in the house for a week, but they provide a lot of entertainment for the show. Some of the cast members have multiple skeletons, and there are also times where multiple cast member skeletons move in at the same time. The skeletons include Alicia, a 24-year-old from Missouri. She's Sylvia's former friend, and they had a falling out after Alicia became Sylvia's boss at her job and spreading rumors about her. Elizabeth is a 25-year-old from Louisiana. She's Tony's kind of ex-girlfriend, as they broke up right before Tony left to do the show. Alyssa is a 23-year-old from Louisiana. She is also Tony's ex, who he described as a stalker. Tia, a 23-year-old from Florida. She's Violetta's enemy for reasons that they don't disclose on the show. Jessica, a 25-year-old from Florida. She's also Violetta's enemy, with Violetta claiming that Jessica made an Instagram account bashing her and her friends, possibly in retaliation after Violetta posted her nose job pictures on Facebook. This is so early 2000s coded. Ashley and Samantha, both 23 from New York. They are Nicole's sisters, and the three of them together are triplets. Unlike everyone else's skeletons, Nicole and her sisters actually get along, and with Ashley and Samantha about to both be married, this is one of the last hurrahs they have together. Brian, a 22-year-old from Rhode Island. Brian is Bruno's brother, and they have been beefing over an argument about a tuna sandwich that ended with Brian telling Bruno that he wished he died in a car accident that he had suffered a few years back. Question mark, question mark? Like, that's so insane. But they actually talk it out on the show. Brian apologizes, Bruno forgives him, and they try to rekindle their brotherly love. Rachel is a 20-year-old from Texas, and she's Madison's stepsister. They had a close relationship until Madison started to use drugs. Since becoming clean, Madison and Rachel have gotten closer. Skylar is a 21-year-old, also from Texas, and he is Madison's ex, who had also backed away from her after she had began using drugs. Last skeleton is Lafayette, a 50-year-old from North Carolina. He is Jason's father, who had left him when he was very young. Jason found out that he had a child on the way, and he wants to be there for his child like his father never was for him. However, he and his father rekindled things on the show and plan to stay in contact. That was a lot. This season was very stressful. I actually came across a clip from this season on TikTok a while back, and I commented on the TikTok like, this season stressed your boy out. This season has so many fights and arguments, it's insane. There are two really big altercations this season in my opinion. The first being Violetta and Sylvia versus Madison. After a drunk night out, Violetta and Madison get into it. About what? Girl, I don't remember. But Madison starts getting into Violetta's face, and a lot of people were surprised because Madison was very like soft-spoken, kind of sweet. People really didn't think she was about that life, but she was about that life, and she was about to give it to Violetta. But Sylvia overheard the argument, runs outside, and yanks Madison back in a headlock, and they had to be separated. The cast ends up watching the footage of the altercation all together, and Violetta was honestly kind of sad about it. She was upset. She apologizes to Madison. But Sylvia, on the other hand, was like, girl, I'm not saying sorry. I'm not mad at what I did, and suck on that.
So, V definitely needed to apologize. She was in the wrong. I wasn't. I didn't know what was going on.
For some odd reason, Sylvia wasn't kicked out. There was no like conversation about her potentially being kicked out. She stays in the house, which is wild. The second big blow up happens in the finale between Jason and Nicole, who have been friends throughout the season. Other than that, Bruno and Sylvia got into it in a van, which was really scary because even though Bruno is an attractive man, him getting loud and getting all up in Sylvia's face like that, like she was about to physically assault her, is not attractive at all. Bruno's brother Brian was also there for the confrontation because he was visiting as his skeleton, and Brian was a cuter version of Bruno in my opinion because he was the actual gay one. And speaking of gay brothers, we need to talk about this one episode storyline because it meant so much to me as a young gay. This season premiered towards the end of 2014, which means I was 20 years old, and like I said, this meant so much to me even though it was a one episode thing. The same episode that Brian came in as Bruno's skeleton, Tony's brother Shane, who was also gay, came to visit. He was also present in that van fight. Unlike Bruno and Brian, who were beefing, Tony and Shane are incredibly close to one another. Brian and Shane would flirt with each other all episode. Tony lets us know that he is fully accepting of his brother being gay and probably would love him less if he wasn't.
My brother, Shane, he's openly gay, and I couldn't be more accepting of it. I couldn't love him more if he wasn't gay.
Meanwhile, Bruno tells us that his brother never officially came out to him and that he doesn't know how to feel about it.
I knew him as a straight kid.
That's Brian. He's a babe.
He never fully came out specifically to me. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it. I'm not gonna lie, it's awkward.
I'm unsure if he's referring to not knowing how to feel about the fact that he's gay, or unsure how he's feeling about him not actually telling him. We do find out later though that Brian had only recently came out like 6 months prior to him coming on the show, and during that time he and his brother weren't talking, so he didn't feel the need to come out to him. So that's probably why Bruno feels some type of way. After they had partied on a boat, the van fight happened. After Bruno gets off the van, Tony is pissed at Bruno for getting buck at a woman and talks about how if he kept going that he would have fought Bruno and his brother Shane would have his back. And this pissed Brian off because he's like, yeah, I know my brother was completely in the wrong, like he shouldn't have gotten this girl's face. However, you're not going to talk about fighting my brother in front of me. Like, he's still my brother at the end of the day. Brian relays this information to Bruno, and when Bruno gets back to the house, he nearly gets into a fight with Tony and Shane. However, this does not stop the gays because after all that drama happened, Brian goes to Shane to make sure they're good, and later in the episode, they make out at the club. I remember being obsessed with this entire episode due to this storyline. And even though Tony and Bruno were beefing, Brian tells Tony that, yeah, I really like your brother, like he's a cool guy, and Tony was 100% for it. He was like, go for it, he deserves it. I remember being so obsessed with this episode when I first watched it, and honestly I think it might be one of my favorite episodes of The Real World ever because the storyline is just so good, and it's kind of crazy because it includes two people who aren't actually a part of the cast. Brian and Shane. And this is 2014. Gay marriage still hasn't been legalized yet. And I mean, you do see gay people on TV back then, but like the way that like gay media is today, it is not the same as it was in like 2013, 2014. You really didn't see a lot of like gay relationships be on the forefront of shows. And even this technically wasn't in the forefront because like I said, this was two people who weren't on the cast because I believe Brian actually leaves at the end of this episode and then Shane leaves in the next episode because they're not part of the cast. But they will become fan favorites after this episode airs. We actually don't see Brian again ever on TV, which is very upsetting because he was very hot. But we do see Shane in later challenge seasons, and he actually fucks his reputation up very heavily in a future challenge, which is very sad because, you know, I want to root for the gays, but you're not going to put your hands on a black woman and get away with it, period. I could go on and on about this season, but I'll stop here. Tony and Madison, who dated throughout this season, would end up having a child together after the show. However, Tony would get back together with Alyssa. Remember Alyssa, the skeleton that I said that he described as a stalker? He would eventually get back together with her, get married with her, and have multiple children with her. I actually looked them up just to make sure I was right about, because I knew he married one of the exes that came on the show, but I wasn't sure which one. So I looked it up to like make sure it was Alyssa, which it was, but she's actually currently pregnant with I believe, their third child together. So shout out to them. Shout out to Tony too, because he's still fine to this day. Like, he's aging well. And I say aging like he's like in his 50s. He's probably like in his like mid to late 30s now. The 31st season premiered on March 17th, 2016, airing 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 2 months. This season would film in Las Vegas, being the third season to do so following seasons 12 and 25. This season did away with the bringing in of people and went back to being 7 strangers being picked to live in a house, but there was still a twist. The original cast this season consisted of CJ, a 23-year-old from Georgia, Chris, a 23-year-old from New York. I would like to note that after the show, Chris would later transition and currently goes by Amo Elizabeth. I don't think I'll talk about her that much this season, but if I do refer to Chris, I am going to refer to her as what she goes by now and use she, her pronouns, but I don't think I'll bring her up, but I just wanted to note that. Dean, a 25-year-old from California, Dion, a 24-year-old from Massachusetts, Jenna, a 22-year-old from South Carolina, Kayla, a 22-year-old from Florida, and Sabrina, a 21-year-old from Massachusetts. This season continued the pre-approved jobs, and only Kayla and Amo got jobs, but they didn't show it on the show. This season's twist had the cast members competing in missions to stay in the house. They competed in these missions either individually, all together, in duos, similar to the format of the now dead show Road Rules, which at this point had been dead for almost 10 years. If a cast member chose not to do the mission or they failed the mission, they would have to leave the house and they will be replaced by someone. The cast ended up participating and completing each mission. In episode 9, they completed their mission, and by doing so, they got a new roommate, Dylan, a 24-year-old from North Carolina. But in order for him to stay, he had to compete in his own individual mission, which he does pass. The biggest storyline this season was the cast issues with Jenna. Jenna is super religious, super conservative, who clashes with a lot of the house, especially CJ. You guys gotta remember, this season aired in March of 2016. We were fully in the 2016 presidential campaign. Y'all already know if you were there. Trump, MAGA, all that. That's actually still going on to this fucking day. Like, I really sit and think about the fact that Trump has participated in every single presidential campaign. Like, he has ran 3 times in a row and won twice. Don't get me started. But yeah, CJ and Jenna have beef all season, which ends with CJ mollywopping the fuck out of her after multiple comments made by both her and her friends, including a comment that one of her friends made while Jenna and CJ were going at it with one another. Her friend told her that she needed to shut up and go pick cotton, which is insane. They knew not to have me in that house. I mean, I obviously wouldn't hit her because she's a girl, but I might have said something not nice. After the fight with CJ and Jenna, they were both sent home, and since it was like the final episode, there was no replacements that came in. The 32nd season, Bad Blood, premiered on October 12, 2016, consisting of 12 one-hour episodes filmed over 2 months. This season was filmed in Seattle, being the second season to do so after season 7. The initial cast consisted of Anika, a 24-year-old from New York, Jordan, a 21-year-old from Illinois, Katrina, a 23-year-old from Florida, Mike, a 25-year-old from New York, Robbie, a 22-year-old from New Jersey, Theo, a 23-year-old from Illinois, and Tiara, a 21-year-old from Georgia. This season's theme was very similar to Skeletons, bringing in 7 people who had bad blood with the initial cast. However, unlike Skeletons, where they only stayed for a week and then left, these people actually stayed in the house the entire time, and this actually breaks the record that Explosion held by having a total of 14 cast members, being the largest cast of any Real World season. The Bad Blood cast included Anna, a 25-year-old from Florida and Katrina's sister, Jennifer, a 24-year-old from New Jersey and Robbie's ex, Cassis, a 21-year-old from Illinois and Theo's cousin, Kimberly, a 23-year-old from Georgia and Tiara's former high school classmate, Orlana, a 21-year-old from Michigan and Jordan's former friend, Peter, a 24-year-old from Florida and Mike's former roommate, and Will, a 24-year-old from Pennsylvania and Anika's ex. So yeah, there's a lot of cast members this season, and honestly, there's not much to talk about. One of the OG guys, Mike, left the show after he got caught saying the N-word.
Wolfpack, dude, are you serious? Day one. Day one.
Mike using the N-word definitely is a soft spot for me.
Theo and Cassis probably had the biggest beef. They ended up getting into a physical altercation that led to Theo being kicked off the show. Their bad blood stems from Theo and Cassis being college roommates, and Theo got kicked off the college football team after Cassis brought drugs into their shared dorm room, which he says never happened, and Theo's like, bro, you're lying. They get into it a lot about that, which, like I said, leads to a physical altercation, and Theo gets kicked off. Tiara left the show after finding out she was pregnant, and then Peter left the show in the final episode after after instigating a physical altercation between sisters Katrina and Anna and his girlfriend Jennifer. He also gets physical with production. So there's a lot of physical shit going on. I believe this season has the most departures of any season with a total of 4. But even with all that, there's still nothing really to talk about this season. Like, I watched this season, I was not entertained. The whole like twist was getting lame. Like, I believe Explosion was a pretty good twist, and I think Skeletons was good. And even though Skeletons and Bad Blood is pretty much the same twist, I think the fact that the Bad Blood stayed in the house oversaturated the house. There's 14 people on this cast. There's a lot of people on this cast who gets barely any screen time. You barely even see them. I think the Skeletons twist with them coming in for just a week and leaving was a lot better than this. We're now in the final season, and the fact that The Real World, this iconic show that has lasted over 20 years, goes out this sad is very sad to see. The 33rd and final season of The Real World premiered on June 13th, 2019. This was the first season to not air on MTV, but aired on Facebook Watch. Yeah, you heard that right. They put the most iconic reality TV show of all time on Facebook's streaming service, which actually does not even exist anymore today. The episodes were broken up into weeks, airing 12 episodes filmed over 12 weeks. This season is the first season since Portland to film in an entirely new city, being Atlanta, Georgia. It always baffled me how Atlanta wasn't a city that they had already filmed in. I feel like the early 2000s would have been a great time to do an Atlanta season, or it would have been fun if they did an Atlanta season with a primarily black cast, consisting Atlanta is like a big black city, but they finally wanted to do Atlanta, but put it on Facebook. Like, fuck. But one benefit of this season was that they did away with the twists and went back to the classic format. The cast of 7 roommates consists of Aurelie, a 21-year-old from Missouri, Clint, a 28-year-old from Michigan, which Clint, similar to Greg from the Hollywood season, was actually chosen by an online poll. And once again, just like Greg, he would get kicked off, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Dondre, a 25-year-old from Texas, Justin, a 26-year-old from Georgia, Megan, a 23-year-old from Louisiana, Tova, a 27-year-old from Arizona, and Yasmin, a 27-year-old from New York. This season was the first and only season, obviously, since it was the last season, to extend the maximum age you had to be to apply. So it used to be 26, but now it's 31, which is why this cast kind of skews older. You have a 28-year-old, you have 2 27-year-olds, you have a 26-year-old. So yeah, that's pretty much why. Once again, just like last season, there's truly not much to talk about. Dondre was a black gay man who supported Trump. So that's all I really got to say. Like, I could say some things that's not nice, but I'm not going to. But apparently, if I remember this correctly, I think he came out after this show was over and said that he only did it for the show. Like, he wasn't MAGA down. Like, he just wanted to be on The Real World, and he pretty much lied. But girl, you really sold your soul to go on The Real World Atlanta that aired on Facebook Watch. Like, The Real World was dead by this point. Like, even those last few seasons, Skeletons, Go Big, Go Home, Bad Blood, like, people weren't really watching The Real World anymore. So you really sold your soul to go in The Real World. Okay. Clint and Tova would date throughout the season, but Clint had major anger issues, which would eventually lead to him being kicked off the show in the final episode. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say about this season. Like I said, it's really sad that The Real World goes out like this really iconic television program, but I guess all good things gotta come to an end, like this video, because that is the final season. We are done. This is by far the longest video I've ever put out, but The Real World was one of my favorite shows growing up. I wanted to be on it so bad. I hate by the time I got old enough to be on The Real World, it was already going downhill. I think Skeletons would have been the first season I would have been eligible to apply for. It is sad that I can't go on anymore, because I really only wanted to go on The Real World because I wanted to go on a challenge. But now that the challenge puts anybody on there, I can just go on any TV show now and go on the challenge, so I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It took me forever to freaking do this video, and I would greatly appreciate the support. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Adios.